days, and I'm flying all the way to Madrid. So they don't know who I am. Well, they probably do. They can see that I'm top tier because I'm a United's partner. But I walked in and I just said thank you. Why? It changes the dynamic of a conversation. Right off the bat. I tell this to people all the time. Try it. Try it. The next time you have something hard to do, whether it's you have to go to one of your branch managers and ask for a loan, whether you're going to buy a car, whether you're going to do whatever, just take a second and change the game. Change the game. The game is say thank you. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate what you do. Why did I learn that? The reaction is so positive. So it takes your experience and it changes it. Now, every once in a while, and I won't mention any names, but I'm going to mention a name. But Iberia Airlines, I got to tell you, no matter what you do, they just. And then you look at that and go, I paid a lot of money for this seat, and you don't know who I am, and I don't care because I just want to make sure you bring me a glass of water or something nice. So it's about that great experience. And I experience that around the entire world. So if you look at the hospitality industry, Marriott. So yesterday, we came in, yesterday was a great experience. We flew in, and the airport you couldn't get a car into the airport. So we had to walk maybe a kilometer and a half, maybe 2 kilometers to go get our car. Who cares? Walking to go get the car. But, that it didn't matter because it was such a great experience going through the whole thing. So while I'm walking, I'm texting the hotel and saying, hey, do me a favor, can you change my room so I have a little bit of bigger room? Because I want I want to be able to present, I might have some people come over so I can have a meeting. And I did it over digital channels, and they actually gave me an upgrade. So they said, yeah, no problem. It's a beautiful view, just like this, but maybe a couple floors down. And I had this beautiful view. They didn't have to do it. It's the first time I stayed, at that Marriott. But now I'm talking about Marriott in front of other people, telling you how great you were, how great customer experience was. This is what your customer does. The second they have a bad experience, the second that they have something that doesn't feel good, they're going to tell everybody. It's impossible to get them to say the nice things, but the bad things, 100%. They will tell everybody. They post it on social media. We were in Santander, we were in Banco Santander, and I have an account there in Spain. And I said to one of my friends, hey, why don't you do this? They're great. They make great with me. So we go there, and they treated her terrible. And I was like, wow, they treated me so good. Why did they treat her so bad? So now you start thinking about how people treat each other and how is it different. Like I see bias. So when a Latin American person comes to Spain, we treat them differently. Treat Spanish people, no problem. But when a Latin American person comes over, they treat you differently, and it's so now you start to think about that. How does that customer experience play in the world? What does that mean? How do you change that feeling too? Because when it really comes down to it, what is a customer's experience? It's how they feel. It's an emotion. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how that emotion plays into artificial intelligence, into automation, into all the digital channels. And remember one thing, you can't force the way a person wants to communicate. Because I promise you, if I had a fraud, if something happened for me and it was fraud with my bank, I'm on the phone and I'm calling everybody and I'm escalating if something happens. So they want to have the empathy and the somebody on the other line that actually knows what they're doing and not some type of bot. Nobody wants a bot where they just lost all their money or it's froze or they can't, they go to buy food at a place and it's frozen. They want the empathy. They want somebody to be able to talk to them. So we're going to talk about all these things. Okay, I'm going to ask a question before I go to this. Am I going at a good pace for you? Does everybody understand everything? We're good? So this was just fun for me. When somebody told me I'm going to have, 50, 100 people in a room to come talk to them about what I'm passionate about, I love it. I love it. And that to me is the most fun. So make it interactive. Make it something that I can help you experience and have a good experience with. Okay, so let's talk about how customers are engaging today. So I'm going to use a little bit of an airline example because I don't want to go into banking and talk about banking and finance. I want to give a neutral example so you can see, because it's the same everywhere. So in the old days when I used to travel, they didn't have applications, you could barely get somebody on the phone. So I'd have to call American Airlines. I'd call American Airlines and they'd say, what is the person, because they didn't have any system, what's your advantage number? 2NL0290. So I give them the number, okay. Okay, great. Oh, Mr. Dallas, great. What do you want to do today? Well, I'm calling you because I'm going to travel. I want to fly. Oh, okay, great. Where do you want to fly from and to? I'm like, gosh, this is so painful. So, I give them the information and 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, I'd have a flight. Now, what do? I take my phone, I go to United Airlines, because I don't use American anymore as much, but I go to United Airlines, boom, 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 done. And I know what experience to expect, because I know that if I'm traveling somewhere like, so here in Bogota, or Bogota, not in Medellin, but in Bogota, when I had to come in, for the last 6 months, 9 months, I had to have all sorts of extra papers. Do you have your vaccinations? Do you have this? Do you have this? And but United Airlines made it easy. They put it all in the system, and it was real easy. So I didn't have to think about that stuff. It's very easy to travel. But really, the experience that I'm looking for is what we call the proactive experience. So that's more like a kind of an active experience. The proactive experience is, welcome back, Nick. I see that you travel from Madrid to London all the time. Is that what you want to talk about today? Because I noticed that you started searching on our website about these things. No, actually, I want to go from Bogota to Medellin. Okay, great. What do you want to do with that? I want to travel 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I want to return 5 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow. And I want a first class seat. And I'd like a beer. If you have a lot, they know what I like to do. They know when I like to do it, and they know who I travel with. They know everything, because data is so important. And behind that, when you think about this proactive experience, you think about, how does artificial intelligence play in that? Well, very simple. This is a great place for artificial intelligence because it's really good at data mining and getting all the information and presenting it in a good way. So as we start to talk, we'll see how that balance between humans and digital, and AI are so important. There's a true balance. So there's a true balance between the two. So let's look at the engagement pillars now. So there are different levels of engagement. So before, during, and after a transaction, and you have to look at it from the different areas. So you have your customers. The customer has, most of the time the customer is doing before the transaction. You have the agents that are working during the transaction with the customers. And you have the supervisors and business that are looking at it during the transaction too, if they have real-time tools to be able to do that. Then after the transaction, you have to have all the analytics and everything that goes behind that to be able to drive behavior. And that's where automation plays. Because if you look at the communication, the way that we communicate, you need to have 360-degree communication. So it's not just about Diana and I talking right now. It's how do I handle Diana afterwards so she comes back for more? So if I put it in banking terms, so Diana came in looking for help with her ATM card, and now she's looking at a car loan. Why? Because I communicated back to her, oh, by the way, I saw that you had a great experience with us. And also, did you know that we have special rates on whatever car? So that helps bring in a really good experience. That brings in a great experience. Because I like that. I like when somebody tells me something. I hate to tell you, I bought these shoes because I was looking on Facebook and sending some pictures there, posting pictures of my kids or something. And I'm like, oh, I like those shoes. So I'm very bad. I'm very impulsive. So I bought it, and then now I get communicated through all the time. I'm like, I have like 6 pairs of different ones like these that are actually fantastic. Very nice. I never thought of it because I've never bought shoes online before, ever. It was the first time. But I liked the way they looked. I'm like, So, but what happened? That digital experience brought me and got me excited. And it brought me something very special. So it's bringing the excitement to the person. Because we're human beings. And excitement and something that you look forward to do is what makes you do the next step, which is transact. Most of the time, if you have the money to do it. If not, you can look at it for about 3 weeks. I looked at it for 3 weeks. I kept looking over, because this is how good the digital marketing is now. Once they see that I looked at that, the cookies they keep you happy. The galletas, they give you the digital galletas, so they actually keep you very, very happy to keep looking at the same thing until you just go, yeah, I'll buy it. So having a conversation with a digital bot and taking that information and being able to give the right next best actions to the agent or self-service. So you're going to see I have some statistics on what that self-service looks like in the financial industry later, but it's very interesting how it's transforming and you're able to optimize your business and you get the best reality. So the next is, let's talk about how the agent is. So once you have that transaction, you have all the information, the data is there. An agent assist package or something that actually takes the transaction, gives the next best actions, and then also has all the details right there at your fingertips. Oh, they looked at car loans? There's the paperwork. Oh, did you want the paperwork? Great. I send it right over to you. And it makes it easy for the agent. But what does that do? Think about it. The agent is the person that is responsible for keeping your customer happy. So if the agent's happy, your customer will more likely be happy. If I have a bad experience in the day as an agent or I'm frustrated, what does that do? I'm going to pass it to you. Yana's going to call in. I had a bad day. Yeah, what do you want? You love car loans? We don't have that here. Go. Or whatever it happens to be, because you're not transacting the same way. So, and there are a lot of tools around that today which actually take the conversation during the conversation and help the agent actually slow down, speed up. Don't say this, say this. And it really guides them through a really good conversation. So what does that do? Now your agent, because the worst thing is when you have a job that you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, you get tired. When you get tired, then you don't want to give out your 100% to the customer on the other side. So this makes the agent feel good. They're helping me out. Okay, great. Oh, great, I have all the information right here. So that's why it's important to use this data and use automation and use tools like Agent Assist to help the agent out. And also have the real time, just right at their fingertips. The last thing, in those pillars are, if you look at the business actually needs to be able to transact in real time. Who cares what happened? I want to know what's happened. Because if I can make a change, so let's say that there was an earthquake somewhere. God forbid. Let's say that there was an earthquake somewhere. And some people needed to go and take their money out. And the ATM systems were down. Then all of a sudden you had a flood of transactions coming in. The business needs to be able to know how do they react to that. What do I need to do to react? Can I get more people involved? Do I turn it and put a different channel on? Do I change everything to self-service and only emergencies come to us? So that gives the business the opportunity to do what they need to do. So raise your hand if you're in IT. Who's in IT? IT? One, okay, thank you. Okay, who's in operations? Who does operations? Okay, great. Are there anybody who's like supervisors or that look at the real time data as it's coming in? Does anybody here do like data analysis on it?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so how important? That's what you need to ask yourself. So we started to talk about this digital transformation that happened. So what is digital transformation? Does anybody know? Can anybody tell me what digital transformation is? In español or in inglés? Either way. Vega, you know it? No?
It's like the next step of the service that we are providing right now.
So it's pretty good. I can't even define it. You know why? Because it means so many different things to so many different people. So when I was a kid, which was, like I said, 38. So when I was a kid, they didn't have computers and calculators. Those were just coming. So calculators just came during the time that I was in school. So when the way that I looked at it, I had to do everything, all my math by hand, everything. And then they had other things like slide rules and things like that you probably don't even know about. But the transformation for that was, using these slide rules, then you go to a calculator, then you go to a computer, then you go to, now you just go to ChatGPT and go, can you tell me how to build a building that's 300 meters tall and has 900 rooms, and then it goes, and it shoots everything out. And here are all the measurements and the loads and this. It's such a different world. It's a different world. When I was doing my research to talk to you, I started going the old school way, and I look it up, Forrester and Price Waterhouse, and then I went, this is stupid. ChatGPT, what do you think? Boom. And I started to look at that, then I started to compare it, then it took me to different places. It made me much smarter. That's hard, but it made me much smarter so I can come and give the right data for you. So things have changed. Digital transformation means so many different things to different people. And that's why I'm saying that, there's this move to AI, and where? Okay, there are different areas that AI can play. AI can play in the back-end systems. So if you look at our company has AI that's built into the solution. It does things that people don't even know it's doing. You have all the predictive analytics. You have all these things that are happening, and automation that goes behind it too. But I have one huge question. Do you think that chatbots and voice bots and all this stuff that you're hearing now about AI, do you think it's going to replace humans 100%, the contact center someday?
No.
Good. Because that's what we've been telling the world and all the investors and all the big. So I do have one guy that said yes. And it was my vice president, and he did it just to make fun of me. So, no, you're not allowed to answer the question. No, but it's true. There's so many things that go behind a transaction. You need people and machines to work together, and that's really the point. But let's look at it this way. So, automation, AI, all these things. There's 73% of the surveyed customers that we had that said that was important to them, and that helped build their relationships and loyalty. So how did it build relationships and loyalty? It's just AI and automation. So on the AI side, they took the conversation and gave them all the information that gave a better experience to the customer. The automation piece, it helped the transaction go 360-degree communication, give the real-time information. So that's why that's so important, and it's such a group. But one thing that you really have to think about is the empathy. So if I had somebody die in my family, if I lost all my money because somebody stole a piece of fraud, if something catastrophic happened, my house burned down, something catastrophic, I need to be able to get to someone, a person, a human, that can transact a conversation with me with empathy. An empathetic conversation. Why? My dad just passed away. I need to know a little bit about things. I'm probably going to get very emotional, and they're going to need to help handle the emotion too. My house just burned down. My life savings, everything I had, all my kids' toys, all the things that we put together, it burned down. Help me recover from this. How do I do it? And you can't just go to an AI, bot and have them figure it out. Oh, well, your plan says you have coverage for $500,000. What does that mean? How do I help my family? So that's why it's so important to have the right technology, but be able to know what time it is to move that person from automation, from a digital transaction to a human, live person that actually empathizes. And you can do that over digital channels too, over chat. You can definitely do that. You can have empathy. But what happens over digital channels? For AI and automation to be practical, we need to remove the barriers of adoption. Those barriers are really key here. So here are the top 3 barriers to adoption. Okay? The first one is cost. So if you don't have the money to do it, obviously it's really hard to be able to implement these things. Today, there's a lot of reliance on professional services. So to implement these, I'll give a good example. Verizon is a big telecommunication provider. They're based in the United States, they're global. Verizon wanted to implement the chatbot. Do you know how many data scientists they had on the chatbot? Take a guess. Anyone? How many data scientists did Verizon have? I'll give you the answer. Ready? 60. 60 data scientists. The average salary for a data scientist in the United States is around $250,000. Benefits, pensions, all those things, right? $250,000. 60 of those. Amazing. And it still doesn't work really well, because, but that's what it took, that a lot of human effort to do it. So that's a huge cost to people to implement. It's not like that anymore. It's much different. With the evolution of all the new tools, the costs have come down. It's a little bit easier to implement, and you can see even your partner Connecta has has AI implemented in a lot of their technologies too, and they're starting to go more. I know Jorge really well, the CIO, so we talk about this all the time. We're on panels and stuff. So, but the professional services to do it are key also, because you have to implement it. What else? After you implement the solution, then you need to maintain the solution. And it takes a lot of time because things change, data changes. So the way that people want to be handled changes, so you need to be able to maintain that. And then finally is the time to development. Now, with all these large language models coming out, with a lot of these things being automated, with it being a little bit easier, it's different. It's a little bit faster to do. It still takes time to develop what you're trying to accomplish in the right way. So if you look at all this, all these things relate to cost. Cost and time. Time is money, money and time. So that's what it all relates back to. And being smart about how you strategize to implement the implementation strategy is very, very important on where to do it and how to do it. But here are some challenges in making it easy. So how do we make it easy? Well, first of all, you make application building easier. So you make the application that you're building easy. So if you need somebody else to help out, it's drag and drop. It's something that is really simple to be able to manipulate. It doesn't take days and weeks and months. It works at the speed of business. So that's the important thing. And remember, that's my favorite thing to say is work at the speed of business. What does that mean? That means that when your customer needs to get something done, you better get it done now, because you don't want to lose that customer. One of the biggest areas that, and I say this all the time in all my different blogs and the meetings that I take, is it takes one bad transaction to lose a customer for life. You know what my bad transaction was? My bad transaction was during the pandemic. I needed my vitamins. You saw me, I was up here taking my vitamins this morning. So I need my vitamins. And I went to go buy them, and they didn't have them. And then when they did have them, they said, oh, I can get it to you in 3 weeks. What am I going to do in the next 3 weeks? Stop my, my program? No. So I found somebody else. Once I found somebody else, do you know that I don't even know my login to Amazon now? I don't even know I don't even have a login. My wife does. She spends a lot of money on it, and the boxes show up at the house, but I don't know how to do it anymore because I don't log into it. Because I buy my vitamins somewhere else. That's a true story, by the way. The house every day. Something shows up at the house. Oh, I need diapers for the kids. Different story. We'll talk about that later. It has nothing to do with AI and automation. To a voice channel. You need to be able to work across all these channels and make it look the same and feel the same. If it doesn't feel the same and look the same, it's very frustrating for a customer. They have to rethink how to communicate. And that's tough. So that's another way. Integrate self-service and live agent training.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, just sharing some ideas with you here.
Of course.
Our case in Bancolombia. Just yesterday evening we were talking about our bot and how to scale up the adoption of the bot.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the challenges that we have right now is how can we scale up the bot about functionalities, about smarter conversation with customers, but also the challenge about integration with this data across all the channels, because at the end for Bancolombia it's really important to preserve the multi-channel strategy and the multi-channel experience. At the end you can scale up the bot, but the data and how you feed the different applications with that data is really important, and how you can connect the different components that support all the channels is key.
Okay. The biggest area, and you hit it very perfectly, is data repository. So the data lakes, you have to have a central place so that everything can communicate in the same place. If you don't have that central point where everything is there, and sometimes you need to actually build it. It's not easy just to integrate everything to it. It's actually having it in a centralized place where you have a center of truth is what I call it. So you have the center of truth, and then from there you integrate into all the channels that you have. But the same thing here, which is that's the biggest issue. If you can't figure out how to take all those channels and have them communicate the same way and have that experience be seamless across it, it's very frustrating, right? I'm sure you surveyed your customers to see. They probably say, yeah, this is very frustrating because this and this and this. So I would definitely say that. Now, the great thing about applications, especially in the banking sector, they've gotten so good. I don't bank with you guys, because I don't live here, but if I did, I do a lot of transfers of money. Like I'll take some money from my U.S. account or my stock account, and I'll move it to my, I actually use Santander because they have U.S. branches too that don't talk to each other. I just found that out. So that's a waste of time. So they don't actually talk to each other. So that became very frustrating for me because I'm trying to do some investments in Spain, and those guys don't even talk. So I can't take the loan here and move it there. So it goes the same way. If the data isn't connected where all these things can work together, it becomes very frustrating. And by the way, I'm looking for another bank to go do business with because of that. Okay, great, you have a great application and I like it, It took me a long time to figure out what my code was because I don't use it as much, but just because you have one thing that's nice, you don't have all the seamless data integrated, and it's very frustrating to me. So that's your key, and I believe that your steps that you would need to take are centralize your data, figure out your data repository, and then have everything come to that, and then make the seamless interface for each of the different applications, voice, chat, even email. All those have to be about the same. Good. All right. So I love you. Something else, because it found more data somewhere else, and then you reload it again, and it has something else. So it's continuing learning. So you'll find that's one of the greatest things about artificial intelligence and machine learning. It continues to learn. And that's very important. I think that we show. So I believe the models are getting faster and faster to train, and that will help with the deployment strategies of how we do this. And then allow measures. So you have to know what your key performance indicators are, your KPIs. So you need to understand what you're trying to accomplish with this, and are you meeting the levels that you're trying to accomplish. If you don't have the real-time data in place to do it, it means nothing. And now with all the great AI modeling in data and analytics, it allows you to get the data. It's interesting, I was talking to 2 marketing companies because I was real interested in digital marketing and how that plays into the contact center. So I met with their CEOs, I met with their CIOs, and they're pretty good-sized companies. And we started talking about that, and I said, well, yeah, but you have the data. Why aren't you taking that and pushing it to the business and to the agent so they can proactively make communications so they can bring a faster result to the customer? Well, we really don't play in that area. I'm like, I just figured out something that I can do that nobody's thinking about right now. That's a really a big area. By the way, now they're thinking about it because that real-time information and very quickly taking that information and making real-time decisions is very important. So all these things we talk about really comes back to data and and strategy of how you deploy. So interactions. So this balance is called collaborative intelligence. And that collaborative intelligence is what we use today to be able to deploy a really great experience. And the companies that are doing this really, really well, you tend to have, I don't know if do you measure CSAT or NPS?
NPS.
NPS, right. So we have a plus 86, I think, NPS. Plus 86. That's amazing. Which you look at like companies like Apple and some of the really big brands around the world, and they're actually even below that. So if you look at that, when you're measuring NPS, it's important that you bring that great experience across the board. Not just the transaction right there, but the transactions all the way through the future. And that's what collaborative intelligence is all about. But we're going to talk about a couple things. So first thing is, if you look at AI is not what's going to take over the contact centers. It's not what's going to take over the world, per se. If you look at AI, it's like AI is this jetpack. It's this super efficient engine. But if I want to go from Medellin and I want to go to Madrid, am I going to have enough oxygen as I'm flying at a high altitude? Is the battery, is it going to run out of power going across? There's a lot of things that happen that you can't just strap on that jetpack to your back. You really need the entire plane. So if you look at AI and automation, all that, the engines are AI and automation. Everything inside the plane, companies that actually make jet engines, and you can change those out depending on how the models become better. So think about it that way. So when you're thinking about, when I ask the question, do you think AI is going to take over everything? Well, it's going to be, it'll help, but you need the entire plane to be able to travel across the world. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second. Anybody have any questions so far about what I'm talking about? Basically, I need some water. So all this has, there might be certain jobs that will get replaced, with AI or machine technology. But if you think about it, I don't know if they're testing it here in Medellin, but in other areas in the world, you have companies like Uber and Google and folks that have automated vehicles that don't have people in them, and what they do is they just drive around so they can take you from point A to point B. You have Amazon on their delivery services that they want to pilot drones. So they take the drones and the drone knows where to go, it goes and delivers the product. Okay, so maybe they don't need cars anymore, but so maybe one person can handle 10 drones, there's still somebody gonna have to be there. I don't think the drones right now can just go. So there might be some jobs that will be replaced by it. But there's a huge power in this. It's about complementing the two. If you look at AI, what is AI? AI is super powerful. It gives you superhuman strength, right, in your mind and the data. It actually was able to go and start to drive more transactions over and over and over again. Fast. The human brings the empathetic. Empathetic conversations are human-based conversations. They're called high-value conversations. The lower-value conversations are, I need to change my password. Can you give me a copy of my policy? Do you have the terms and conditions on my credit card? Do you have a copy of my mortgage? Those things are they're transactional. You can do those all, and it can be looked up through automation and AI. So that balance is what we call it. So they're saying this synergy between the two is what they call the third generation of business transformation. The third wave of business transformation is what this is all called. Yes?
What do you think is the role of generative AI in the business?
Very good.
Understanding this, of course, these two worlds, but generative AI is...
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the most important thing about it, pretty much. So the learning part of it and the next generation, that's the most important piece is to be able to see the next level of transaction. So what is that role? I think that role is it's embedded. And that's why I said it's the jet engines. Well, that generative AI is going to be bigger and bigger engines that get put on the plane so it can travel further and further across the world. So if I give the same analogy, when I was younger, the planes can only travel so far. And then they came out with the Concorde, and the Concorde could go faster across from New York to London in a couple hours, where it takes 6 or so hours. So you see that the technology changed it, and that's really what the generative AI is what is really going to drive all this change and a faster adoption going into the future. That's where I think it plays. Very good question. Thank you. All right. Perfect.
After that,
I'm gonna send that to maybe 1 million followers. Yeah, not mine, but I send it to the influencers, and the influencers send it out. So it's like 1 million followers on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So you're all famous now.
thank you, Spanish, and we can translate in Russian.
Sure, we could do that. You know what? I plan on having this do it this way. I'll change this to Spanish and I'll send it to you guys. So you guys have this just for your records in Spanish. Is that good? Okay, awesome. Okay, we already talked about this a little bit, which is the people train the machines work together with the people to be able to make this true collaborative intelligence. Now what I really wanted to do is get past the theoretical side and talk more about your industry and what we're finding is the business challenges that people around the world are saying about banking and finance. Okay, so let's start with the first. So what are the biggest issues that banks and financial institutions experience together? So lack of personalization. So what's that? The person on the other line or the person on the digital channel is just another number. It's just another conversation. I know if I'm one of your customers, I know you know everything about me. You know how many loans I have with you. You know what kind of cars I have because I buy my loans through you too. You know how many credit cards I have. You know how much money I have in the bank. You know all about my family. You know about my passport because I need a passport to get an account. You know everything about me. So why don't you use that in conversation? And I'll tell you the worst examples that I get of lack of personalization. The cable companies, most cable companies are still terrible at this around the world. But the internet cable company providers, yeah, what do you need? What do you mean what do I need? You know that my system is down because all your systems are tied into you. You know everything about me. Why are you asking me what I need? You should have called me to tell me that your system is down. that personalization that you have, if you come back and say, I see you have, I'm sorry, I'm going to do it in US dollars instead of Colombian pesos, so you have $500,000 in the bank. Hey, I noticed you have a lot of money in the bank, which would be really great, but I don't think that's a reality. But you have a lot of money in the bank, so what do you do? What do you want to do with that? You should have it make more money. We have these offers that are out there. It's proactive communication. You know, there's certain levels of what you can share, of course, right, for privacy and stuff. But you can start to cater the offer. So bringing that personalization into the conversation and into the way that you interact with the customer brings your level of service to such a great level. Do you do that today? Do you guys know it?
Not so much.
No. This is a perfect one. And by the way, it's not only a revenue-making thing, but it's also a customer experience objective. It's both. If you personalize it, hey Nick, I see you've been banking with us for the last 5 years. I really appreciate all the hard, the great loyalty that you have with our bank. I noticed that you have some money that's been sitting in your account that you're not really using. We can help you make money on that right now. By the way, JP Morgan or Morgan Stanley, I use them for my stocks, and my guy does it all the time. He's like, hey, I noticed you've had this sitting here for a while. We can make 6% on this if we do this. And oh, by the way, the stock market's running right now in your sector at 30%, but not in the stocks that you've invested in. And then I laugh at him and go, why didn't you invest in those stocks? But it's the personalization that you get from that keeps me coming back. And that's something that's really important. So that's one of the big areas. Complex products and services. So things that are too hard to understand. It could be something as simple as a credit card offer that, oh, your credit card, right now, your credit card is at this percent, but then after this, it's this percent. And by the way, if you spend it on this, you get this many points. And oh, by the way, if you do this, maybe it's too complex. Or the process is too complex to get to that. So complexity starts to make people deter away from doing business with you. So keep it very simple. One of the things that I always tell, I run a pretty good sized sales organization. At one point I had about 300 people that work for me. I have smaller now that have international, and I'm going to grow it to probably 300 to 500 people. But what do I always say? Keep it very simple. There's Liz, Diana, keep it very simple, right? Make it easy for people to do business with you. If you do that, the chances of somebody wanting to do business with you or explaining things in regular Spanish, not something fancy where people don't understand, that goes a long way. It actually does. So keeping the complexity down. Inefficient channels. So think about your channels. I want to communicate in the channel I want to communicate in. So they should all be available to me easily. What am I seeing today? I'll say Iberia Airlines. If I make a mistake, and I've done this because their application keeps having problems, but if I make a mistake and I book the wrong time, it takes me an hour to talk to somebody to figure it out. 2 minutes later, oh no, it was the wrong date. I'll book the other flight, and then I'll call up, can you please cancel it? 1 hour. And then it takes me 3 weeks to get my money back. It took me a few minutes to make the interaction. Why does it take 3 weeks to get my money back? And why did it take an hour to talk to somebody? So, and by the way, I can't get to them. I don't know what phone number to call. It's not easy for me. And I want to talk to somebody because when you go to their chatbot, worst chatbot I've ever seen. It's, do you want to talk about this, or this? Oh no, I want to talk about this. Okay, go call an agent. Not, hey, press this link and we'll have an agent talk to you. Go call an agent. Spanish service. It's fine. I'm telling you, the worst service I've ever seen because they don't think about how I want to interact, and they're used to it. It's okay. In the culture, oh, okay, I have to wait 1 hour on the phone. No problem. They came up with a new law that you can't be on hold for more than 3 minutes.
Wait.
November last year, I wrote an article on it.
But I'm waiting the answer.
You can't be on the phone waiting for more than 3 minutes. Except for the government, the utility companies. So basically, all the places you wait for an hour, you're still gonna wait an hour. Everybody else, but it's pretty incredible. So they come up with a law to help push better service, but it does nothing. So what I'm saying is make it easy for your customers to contact you. There was an airline, and I can't remember, I wrote about it, but there was an airline that cut their voice channels. They said only digital, 100% digital. No phone numbers, no nothing. Okay, well, what happens when my flight gets canceled and I can't get a hold of anybody? What happens when I have an emergency and I need to get to somebody? It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's whoever that operations person that thought about that, they should be fired, because they're not thinking about their customer. They're just thinking about the cost for the company. And guess what? If you treat your customer good, what are they going to do? They're going to spend more money with you. They're going to come back. So all that. So make it easy for them to do business and make your channels efficient. So if I'm on text and I want to talk to you over the phone because it's just I don't like to type that much, give me a link so that you call me, or call me proactively. Can you give me your phone number? I'll call you proactively. There's so much hacking in the world today that we know that this is a big business problem. So we'll skip that for now. Long wait times and limited access to service. So I also bank with a company called PNC. It's one of the top 15 banks, I think, in the US. I think PNC is 15. And we went to go do business with them. And they loved everything that we showed. We talked about all this stuff, and they loved it. They loved it. They were going to select us as their new vendor of choice. Exactly. So, no, don't worry. Happens to me all the time, so you're good. At least I don't have Siri talking to me on my watch. I changed my watch to a regular watch today. So they were going to select a solution to help change the way they do business. Their procurement department got in place, and they said, "Oh, well, you guys are too much. Too much compared to what?" So they didn't select a solution called Make It Easy. So the story is every time I try to contact them, it's absolutely a disaster. My wait times are long. Then I get to put to the wrong departments all the time. And try to use their credit cards overseas, to answer your calls for you and make it faster. And that'll save you money in the long run. But think about that. And I don't know what your average wait time is. Does anybody know what the average wait time is?
It's longer than it should.
Right.
We have it's shorter than Spain.
But longer than everywhere else.
No, but we have like for example, 20 seconds.
75% of our
20
interactions
seconds.
are attended in 20 seconds.
That's actually really good.
More or less.
Yeah, that's really good. That's actually pretty good. But the reality is that 25% of your transactions are not. And it averages out too, right? So you have transactions that happen that are automatic. And then you have transactions that are like, take 20 minutes to get to a payment. So it all balances out over a lot of things. So that's one area that's really important. If I look at it, especially, do you use preferred?
Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Just like
I want to make you think about this.
We're kind of in that. The 35 is kind of our minimum level.
Yeah.
Right now we're in 84 in 10 seconds, more or less. 84.
Yes, not bad. So.
But still.
And I always see the same thing. And now you have 60% that are didn't,
Yeah.
So
We have another metric that for me it's more painful than the previous one, is that we answer the 96% of the calls. It's
So you have a
good,
4%
but it
advantage
means
rate.
that that's the point.
yeah.
4%.
And how many total calls do you have come in?
How many calls?
Kind of 6 million interactions per month.
So
And calls are kind of 3-4 million.
So think about that. 4% of those numbers is huge. So I manage.
Calls are not answered.
They're not answering. So how do you take that and fix it? Well, that's what this is all about. We talked about artificial intelligence and automation and all that. That's where you implement your interactive virtual agent. So you take the interactive virtual agent, you have full conversational AI that's happening, so they're transacting it, very smoothly. At least the call is answered. Think about it that way. At least it's answered and the level of service is good. Nobody's going, I can't even get in to talk to them, because they're going to tell all their friends. And it's hard to keep a customer. To keep a customer is hard, but once you lose that customer, it's even harder to bring them back. I think the statistic is 74%. 74% of customers that leave don't come back. 74%. If I made it up, I think I had the statistic written down here, and I'll tell you, but I think it's 74%. That's a lot. They'll never come back. American Airlines, I don't fly with them anymore. Now, I do fly with Iberia and their partner, and I have to fly with British Airways. British Airways and Iberia are the two worst, but I have to fly with them because that's the routes that they have. If I had a choice, I wouldn't. And it goes back to choices too. So giving the customer choices of channel, giving the customer choices of product, giving them choices of how to transact faster. So if you use interactive virtual agents and bots up front that are efficient, and you're offloading your transactions so you're not losing 4% of millions of calls, it's a huge investment. And that gets to the limited choice. And they say price transparency. And I believe price transparency is like, well, to get a loan, it's going to cost you this much, and then, then this, and then, by the way, the interest rate's that, and it's very confusing to people, so if you look at it. But limited choices are really what drive this. Limited choices, if you are in a negotiation, they say you always should give a choice. This or this. When you have a kid, you give them a choice. Do you want a banana or do you want a cookie? Which one do you think my kid picks? So, no, he picks banana. So, he thinks he's a monkey. So, that choices are important, but it helps with development. If you just say, nope, this is the way it is, that's a failed communication, it's a failed transaction. So those are the biggest challenges that are seen in the financial institutions. Now, let's talk about the failed customer experiences. Well, the number one failed customer experience, unbelievable, is empathy. Why? Well, we talked about it. My account's frozen. Somebody stole money out of my account. I'm getting a recurring charge that's happening. Oh, well, you should have figured it out. Oh, well, something matter of fact, or they're reading right from a script. It takes that real empathy to keep that customer happy. And if you can take that and really drive that messaging, you'll see that you'll bring this amazing customer experience over and over. The best agents, and I call everybody agents if that's okay, the best agents in the industry are the ones that actually care. Their average hold times may be a little bit longer, but they actually are taking care of things. First call resolutions are high. Average handle times may be a little bit high also, but their customer satisfaction for those customers are through the roof. So think about that with that empathy. Poor communication. Okay, this is the one that makes me most upset, and I call this Spain 101. So this is Spain 101. 101 is the first year of college when you take a class. 101, the first class, the first year, they should learn how to do this, which is communicate better. I hate when you go into, and we'll use a retail transaction. I hate when you go into a retail store and they say, oh, you're looking for that? Oh, it's right over here. And then you get over there. Oh, you're looking for that? No, it's over here. And then you come over here. Oh, you're looking for that? No, it's over here. And 4 or 5 times later, nobody knows where it is, and it was right there where you were standing in the first place. So that's the worst kind of communication. So what happens? Oh, you need help with your credit card, or you had fraud, or something like that. Oh, let me take care of it. Take ownership. Taking ownership and having a warm handoff is very important. So if I'm taking ownership and I hand it off to Edwin will take it. Thank you very much, Nick. I appreciate it. Hey Diana, I see that you've had this transaction and I've already gotten briefed on it. I see all the information here. Let me help you through it. You went to the wrong department, but I'm the right department. So communicate better. It's very important. This is the overall of those channels. I have about 5 minutes more. Is that good? Okay, good, because I know you did. So, lack of ownership. We said take ownership of it, take closure. Long wait times. Very self-explanatory, we talked about this. And finally, failure to meet expectations. So if I called in and I want to get a car loan, and you aren't even able to explain to me how to do it or what information you need or have the right information, then that failed expectation will not let me do business with you again. So, and here's a couple statistics to look at. So Price Waterhouse said that customers will leave their bank after a single poor experience. So this is a single poor experience. This is just a bank, 46%. Because a lot of data says, right? They expect they expect that customers can resolve their issues 70% of the time over digital channels or over self-service channels. So like I said before, if you have those drop calls coming in, it's better to put an interactive virtual agent in front and have them handle that and get the right people, but have that call, that transaction handled rather than it drop off. So you should be able to implement all the low volume, high value communications with live agents and the automated tasks, password resets, document finding, things like that with virtual agents, automation. And here's some additional statistics, 3.5 times. You look at customer retention, higher customer retention, 3.2 times. Yes?
Can you get back to about 70% so the first call was
The first call transaction one. So that was the first statistic I get, which is that customers will leave their bank after one single.
all the calls are answered. I prefer if I call to be solved,
Yeah.
right? So you say 70% of the customer expects to be able to resolve most issues on their calls to email channels around contact center. If I call to a contact center, I'm expecting to be solved like 100%, 90%,
Well,
95%.
okay, I don't have that statistic on here, but it's very high. I have read it, I don't have it at my fingertips, but in the contact center, and I use that as a contact center, so the digital experience, as far as I'm concerned, is part of the contact center. So that 77% is part of that. But when you're saying once they get to an agent, what that number is, I'll find out. I know I have that statistic because I've looked at it before. I just don't know off the top of my head. So good question. Yeah. So the other thing too is about this. So you can take that abandoned call, put it into a queue, take that queue, make an outbound communication to them. I know, I can do this all day. So there's a lot of ways of handling that drop information. All right. Okay. First call resolution goes up using automation, AI, things like that. And so what is really the future? So you have to look at multiple points here. You have to look at the agent, you have to look at the customer, you have to look at the business, you have to see how people want to transact together. You have to provide the best experience possible and true collaborative intelligence to balance all this together. That really is what makes the key here. And you have to remember one key point. The customer experience has changed more in the last few years than in the last 10 years. Why? Because there's so much data and so much automation and so many channels to be able to go and choose. The industry has changed completely. So I always ask the question, and this is how I want to end it today, which is, we talked about all this great stuff. What are you going to implement today to make a change in your business, to make your customer experience better? I think we made a few suggestions today. So think about that. And I know that you guys have an amazing brand, so thank you for the time today to come over and present and give you my view on how customer experience is. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I'll open up to any questions. Anybody have anything they want to talk about?
Yeah.
how can you get like you said we need to banks to get really personal clients with our clients, right? So how can you get really personal without the client feeling like he's being stopped, you know?
It's a balance, you're right. So I'll give you a sales example from our industry. So in Europe, they have GDPR, which is a compliance act. You can't have, unless the customer has actually transacted with you and given you the authority to do something, you can't even communicate to them about their projects. It's pretty tough. So there's a balance here, which is, hey, you know, as a client of ours, I noticed that you have some really good, track record. You have to use a little bit more generalities so that you don't feel like, and don't do everything all at once. So don't go, hey, I see you spend this much money, and I see you have 3 credit cards, and I see you have this, and I see you have this, and I see you have this. You try to pinpoint one area that's important. So if today it's important that you have more clients that you're giving credit cards to, then focus just on that. Say, hey, I noticed that you have a really great account with us and you've been with us for a while. You know, we'd like to extend you some credit with a credit card. And here's how it works. Is that something that's going to interest you? Because I think you'd be a good client for us, and obviously you've been very responsive, and you know, you have a lot of money in the bank. So you try to really keep the experience down to something very simple instead of making this huge, you know, hey, we have this, oh, and by the way, you don't like that? We have car loans, and oh, I see you spent this many, you have 3 kids, and you have this, you want to get, thank you. Really, you know, really very, very pointed message. Good?
Thank you. Bye.
I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Y ahora con todos.
Con todo el equipo.
También va a venir Nicolás.
Nicolás.
¿Listo?
Gracias.
Gracias. Está de 8. No, pero
Buenas tardes. ¿Cómo están? ¿Cómo les va? Qué rico tenerlos acá, temprano, todos bien puntuales. Me alegra mucho verlos, muchachos. Como saben, pues digamos, hace varios meses venimos trabajando en conocer un poquito como las herramientas que tiene Conecta a nuestra disposición. Entonces el día de hoy tenemos la oportunidad pues, de conocer una herramienta muy interesante, un CTI en la nube que se llama Five9. Entonces tenemos como a unos invitados muy especiales. Está pues Luz Elena, que es pues, nuestra como account manager para Colombia, y viene pues Nick también, que hace parte del equipo de Five9, para contarnos un poquito de temas que nos interesan, temas de inteligencia artificial, temas de liderazgo, temas de hacia dónde va el tema de Customer Experience. Entonces vamos a aprovecharlo de manera muy importante, porque pues es una charla, pues ya tuve la oportunidad de escucharla en el pasado y es bastante interesante. Tenemos dispuesto para ustedes estos cositos, pero estos cositos, estos audífonos, estos traductores, para quienes necesiten, porque la presentación de Nick va a ser en inglés, entonces para que hagan uso de este y puedan... No van a alcanzar, bueno, pero... Bueno, entonces la primera parte, la primera parte va a ser Nick contándonos pues, sobre eso que les digo. Vamos a tener un break y luego Lucelena y su equipo nos van a contar un poquito de las funcionalidades de Five9 y cómo podemos hacerlas realidad pues, en nuestras operaciones en ella. Entonces, así que bienvenidos y muchas gracias a Five9 pues, por la invitación y por traer a Nick y venir ustedes a estar acá con nosotros.
Muchas gracias. Muy buenas tardes, como decía Carlos, mi nombre es Lucelena, soy la encargada a nivel global en términos comerciales de Conecta. Nick es nuestro vicepresidente de ventas globales y pues estamos muy contentos con la oportunidad de poder estar acá a hablarles de la alianza estratégica que, como Carlos les mencionaba, hemos construido con Conecta desde principios de este año. A diferencia de cualquier otra alianza, Five9 y Conecta no es un cliente de Five9, sino es un aliado estratégico. No solo por las condiciones económicas que hemos pactado, sino que en todo el recorrido ustedes van a tener el alcance como si fuesen un partner reseller de Five9. Van a poder hacer las propias implementaciones, desarrollar incluso productos de Conecta y poderlos poner en nuestro marketplace. Vamos a poder incluso ustedes más adelante poder utilizar a nuestros partners para redistribuir el portafolio de Conecta. Entonces, en un momento le quiero dar paso a Nick, pero antes que nada quiero decirles quién es Five9 muy brevemente. Nosotros somos una plataforma de contact center en nube que nacimos hace más de 21 años en el mercado. Five9 es americano y lleva en Colombia aproximadamente 3 años. En esos últimos 3 años hemos crecido mucho sin tener o sin llegar al cliente directamente, lo hacemos a través de partners. En este caso lo que queremos es cubrir una parte importante del mercado a través de Conecta y que esta alianza estratégica nos sirva para crecer en conjunto. Nosotros prestando todo el conocimiento y las herramientas tecnológicas y ustedes pues el cubrimiento que tienen como operación en el mercado. Estamos ubicados en más de 80 países, tenemos más de 400 partners locales que son los que se encargan de hacer las integraciones, de prestar el apoyo al cliente final. En este caso, la idea es que Conecta también pueda hacer las integraciones de Five9, lo cual les va a servir mucho más para todo lo que tiene que ver con el modelo de negocio, de que sea más rentable, de que tengan ustedes conocimiento técnico de lo que hacemos y cuando lleguemos al cliente puedan ustedes decir si eso técnicamente funciona, el modelo de negocio va a ser de esta forma y que sea viable para todos. Entonces, les doy paso a Nick, que va a hablar sobre inteligencia colaborativa, inteligencia artificial, que es parte de lo que queremos liderar junto con Conecta en Colombia y pues a nivel global, de cómo incorporar en los modelos de negocio la inteligencia artificial y hacer modelos de negocio inteligentes.
Hola a todos. Hola. Ok, hablo muy poquito español. Entiendo mucho y hablo muy poquito. Perdóname. Bienvenido a todos. Y es muy difícil de español en una presentación de AI y automation y todo. Perdóname. I'm going to do this in English. Okay, raise your hand if you understand English very good. Así. Ok. 30%. 3. Ok, perfecto. Yeah. Tomo 3 aguardientes. Entiendo todo. Okay, first and foremost, thank you very much for the time. I really do appreciate that. I'm going to talk very, very slow because when I go to Spain, I live in Madrid, so when I'm in Spain and they talk very fast, I have no idea what they're saying. If they talk slow, I understand almost everything. So I'm going to do the same for everyone too. Okay, that's me. Okay, today we're going to talk about the customer. We're going to talk about the customer engagement and what that looks like in the industry. So I'm not going to talk about Five9. I'm not going to talk about, Genesis or Avaya or anybody in the industry. What I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about what's happening in the world of customer experience. What makes a great experience and what makes a really bad experience. So the experience that I expect, if anybody can guess, I travel all over the world. I spend almost every day on the road. So that's why I live in Madrid. I live in the United States, in New Jersey, but I'm everywhere. And the one thing that I do is I try not to have my assistant make my reservations. So we're going to talk about experiences that I've seen throughout that world. We're going to also talk about the engagement pillars. What do the pillars of engagement look like? And how does that fit in the entire world? We'll talk a little bit about the challenges and the digital transformation that goes around that. And then we'll talk about collaborative intelligence. What is collaborative intelligence? And then finally, I have one good example, because today we spent time at Banco Colombia, and we presented to about 100 people there and talked about customer service and how we can change their great company and what they're doing. And it was very well received as a partner of Conecta, So that's very important too. So with that, we'll get started. So you're probably thinking, you have this global vice president that's sitting up here that runs sales organizations. So what do I know about customer experience? Okay, I know a lot about customer experience because, like I said, I don't rely on people to do my reservations, my travel, when we go out to places. I do that as part of my experience to see how things work and what changes can be made. So with that, my best experiences are in air travel, because I travel on airplanes about 100 to 150 times a year. So it's a lot. So, okay, hold on. Is everything okay?
No, it's fine.
Okay, good. So, all right, you want the microphone? Okay. So, as part of that, the experience that you get through a good experience or bad experience is real interesting. When you have a great experience, you almost never tell people about how great of an experience you had. When you have a bad experience, you tell everybody. Okay? And living in Madrid and in España, total España, the service is terrible. Why? It's a cultural thing. They're used to having it. I hate to, if anybody's from Spain, sorry, it's the truth. Jose Mejia, is it the truth? Yeah, it's true. The service is bad. He's not from Spain, but the service is bad. So, as part of that, and through my travels in time, you start to see what great service is. And service starts from you, as an agent, as a supervisor, as a consumer, all the way around. So when I get on an airplane, the first thing I do before I go on the airplane is I go to the shop and I buy one box of chocolates. And I always buy one box of chocolates for, sometimes two, for the flight attendants, for the pilots, for the people that do their work. And I walk in the door, and Luz and Diana saw it yesterday. I walk in the door, and I hand the chocolates to the people, and I'll say, thanks, I appreciate it. I fly a lot, and I know how hard of a job it is that you have. And it's really tough because you get a lot of people who are complaining, so I just wanted to say thank you. And then they look at me and go, what's this for? I said, just for doing your job. I go, thank you. And I go and I sit down. So, this is a very interesting experiment. Let me tell you why I do this all the time, to see how people react. It's very interesting. Almost every flight attendant that I do this to, or pilot, are like, oh my God, this is amazing. Wow, I can't believe somebody brought us a box of chocolates. Think about it. If somebody came up to you and said, here's some chocolates, you'd be like, chocolates. So it brings this really happy feeling. So what do they want to do? Mr. Nick, can I bring you something to drink? Are you going to sleep? Are you going to stay awake? What are you going to do? And they treat you differently because you treated them differently. It's amazing. And it starts a chain reaction of positive energy. So when you start to think about engagement, in everybody's position, salud. When you start to think about everybody's, engagement, you start to think about, wow, I can change the way this conversation goes by how I, as a person, react to it. So I stayed about 150 nights in hotels last year, and that includes Spain, and I have an apartment in Spain. So if you think about it, I was on the road for maybe 300 nights last year. So for 300 nights, I was somewhere where somebody had to take care of me. So to see that kind of experience and see what it changes, it's very interesting. It's very rare you see somebody on the other side do it. So when you take your game to the next level, it's amazing. So part of that, oh, well, I guess I can take that off the screen. Let's see. Diana, will you take, or Evan, will you take that off the screen for me? Okay, great, thank you. So as we go on here, we start to talk about different things about customer experience and how you change the game. There's technology that does it. There's a lot of different stuff that actually changes the game. Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Perfect, thank you. So let's talk about the ways that we see communication. So when I first started traveling years ago, I used to call American Airlines. And American Airlines was very popular at the time. So I'd call in and they'd say, oh, hi, Mr. Nick. Thank you very much for calling. What's your frequent flyer number? I'd say 2NL0290. That's my real number. I still remember it for 30 years. So I'd give them that information and they'd pull it up and go, oh, well, that's great. Thank you for being a frequent traveler with us. What are you calling about? What do you mean what I'm calling about? I'm calling the airline about. It's for a flight. And so you start to think, well, you know, they have the information. Why didn't they know how to handle it? So now you start to look at how I fly with United Airlines now. United has a program, it's called Global Services. And Global Services, 1% of the entire world can be invited to be in Global Service. Sorry, not the entire world, the entire United customers, 1%. And they treat you very, very well. They have an SLA, you know, your average SLA is like 10 seconds. They actually handle it with people, not just, you know, with bots. But more importantly, my experience is like this. Welcome back, Nick. I see you have a flight from Madrid to London Heathrow. Is that what you want to call about or talk about? And I say yes or no. So it's directed speech, really basic. And then that's it. And then it goes to an agent, and you know, you start to do your transaction. They have a little bit of information about you. But as you go through time, you start to think, well, with all the technology we have, with AI, with all the data that's out there, you should be able to have a really proactive experience, something that's just amazing. And that experience for me is something like this. Welcome back, Nick. I see you have a flight from Madrid to London Heathrow. I also see that you usually sit in first class, but you have an economy ticket right now. We can upgrade you for 250 euros to sit in first class right now, or you can use one of your upgrade points to get moved to first class. Is that what you want to do? No. Actually, it's always yes. It's always yes. So, yeah, of course I want to sit in the front. So yes, I want to sit in the front. Okay. Well, I also see you were looking for a flight to go from London Heathrow to Italy, to Milan. If you do that flight right now, we will give you 50 euros off your flight to book right now online with me. Without an agent. This is all just the IVA. Oh yeah, I want to say 50 euros. Boom. So I booked my flight. So now I'm taking a call where I got upgraded. They gave me the option for being able to, you know, take another flight, and I saved money doing it. It brings my level of customer experience to the next level because it's proactive. It knows me. It knows what I eat. It knows what time I get to the airport. It knows how many bags I check. They know where I sit on the airplane. They know my passport. They know what countries I'm from. They know where I fly to and fly from. All that stuff is information because it's data. So data is really the key to success around all this and all these engagement channels. Catalina, data is the key?
Yes.
See, Catalina says it. So, good. So, now let's talk about, they use natural language, or maybe they use nothing. Maybe they use touchstone. They can have digital language processing, which is processing their voice and being able to make decisions based on that, and sentiment. You know, are they happy? Are they sad? You know, what is the feeling of the call going to be like? What are they asking for? So you can take. So if you look at it, the real. Oh, it does work better this way. So if you look at it, the real engagement is starting from the customer. You gather all the information, all the data that you need from there. Very important. So now, during the conversation, what do I expect? As an agent, I want to have the information right in front of me. The worst thing you can do and the worst experience you can give is not knowing what they're calling about. So they call in, you see, but that's very difficult on an agent. Who's an agent here? Who is anybody an agent? Anybody a supervisor? Who's technical? Who works at Connecta? Okay, got it. Jose Maria, thank you. Thank you very much. All right.
At least one.
One person. There was like three, so we're good. We're good. So the agent, the way that we want to is, so if I'm calling in, you know, for a flight, they have information of all the flights that I'd be calling in on, so just in case I want to switch. Oh, you want to upgrade? It's the button's already there, ready to go. Oh, they need information, they need a ticket or whatever, they can forward that over SMS or over email. So that information is all there. None of this stuff is AI, by the way. This is all just regular conversation. Part of it does use AI. It uses a lot of that technology to be able to talk about, decipher what the information is. So, in addition to that, the agent gets a lot of that transcription part. Connecta needs to know what the real-time information is. Who thinks real-time information is important? Good, good. Real-time information is very important. Okay. So real-time information helps a business react now. Now, if they're outsourcing to Connecta, you have the real-time information, but you can provide that in real-time decisions. That's a really big advantage of like the cloud part of it. So, Jose Maria, you don't like that idea?
I do like it. I'm
Automating the process, and the automation of this process is very key. It goes together with the AI. And then we started to hear about this thing called digital transformation. Okay, I'm going to ask the question again, and if you don't need to answer it, but who knows what digital transformation is? So for me, when I was a student years ago, they didn't have calculators. So when I did math, I had to do it by hand. And I did everything by hand, so I learned like the old-fashioned way. It was from the old instruments to a calculator, and from a calculator to a computer, and from computer to ChatGPT. So now, if I want to build a building, ChatGPT, I just say, I want to build a building. I want it 300 meters tall with 900 rooms, and can you tell me what the load capacity is? And how much materials I need to do it, and it probably gives you, maybe that's a lot of information, but it'll tell you what to now artificial intelligence helping, figure out things. So that's really what digital transformation is. And what it really is now it's transforming into artificial intelligence and automation. And I put those two things together. So artificial intelligence and automation. Why? Well, it's great that you have the information, but you need to do something with it. Okay, and I'll explain a little bit what that really means. But, so, this is the biggest question that I could possibly come up with. Does anyone here think that artificial intelligence is going to take over the contact center 100%? Who thinks that artificial intelligence can take over the contact center 100%? Thank you. Thank you. Jeez, my glasses. So, no, there's no way. There's a possibility of a majority, a time when a job is replaced by, like automation. So maybe you take something, you automate it once you get into results. But people are needed to be able to drive that. So here's an interesting statistic. So we took this as part of our group, and it says 73% that the contact center challenges that are being faced, that automation that supports customer support would improve customer relationship and loyalty. So by automating the process, we're going to increase the loyalty a customer has. But once again, you go back to one thing that machines are not good at right now. And what's that? Empathy. So what's empathy? Well, if my house burned down, if I had a death in the family, if somebody broke into my bank account and stole all my money, I do not want to talk to a machine. I want to have a human talk to me on the other side. There's a psychology that's to it. There's a whole psychology that goes behind this. And that's the next level of customer service that needs to be looked at, is when is the time for empathy and a human agent, and then when is the time for automation? And the systems are so smart right now that you can tell with sentiment what that conversation is like. And also there are other analytics that you can use. There are companies out there that monitor not only the customer, but the agent, what their voices sound like, what they feel. Also by what they ask too. So if I say, my house just burned down, I need help, I don't want the computer, the bot to tell me, oh, well your policy can replace your house up to 500,000 euros. My house burned down. I want somebody to help me through this problem. I don't care what my coverage is. I want to know, how do I fix it? And part of that is bringing that empathy that comes with it, and an agent coming up and saying, God, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. And we can fix it together. I'm going to partner with you. And it's not about average handle time now. It's about the empathetic conversation to keep a customer happy, but also help resolve their problems. So first call resolution, if possible. Sometimes it's funnier in English, sometimes it's not. So for AI to be really practical, by the way, there are more funny things in Spanish than there are in English. I went and saw Mamma Mia in Madrid, and it was much funnier in Spanish.
Nick,
Yeah, yes.
there is a delay with the translation for about 3 seconds.
Okay, so
that's
slow
why-
down?
That's why people...
Ah, got it. Okay, perfect. Okay.
El segundo ya.
3 segundos. Perfecto.
¿Entendiste el chiste,
I went to I went to Madrid and saw Mamma Mia, and it's funnier in Spanish than it is in English. A lot funnier. So it goes to show, that's why I have to do this presentation in English, because if I tried to do this all in Spanish for you, you wouldn't get the same energy and results from me. So thank you for dealing with the delay and my funny jokes. So with that, for AI to be practical, you have to remove barriers that are involved in AI. There are a few barriers. So we're going to discuss 3 barriers. The first one is cost. It's expensive right now to implement. Why? Well, there's a big communication company, a telecommunication company in the United States. Okay. No, it's not expensive? Okay, perfect. So tell me if it's not coming across, so I know to come back and slow down. Perfecto. Okay. No preguntas, no preguntas. Okay. No. Okay. So this big telecommunications company.
The translator.
Oh, it stopped. Okay. Okay. See? Okay, un momentito. Colombia. Okay. So cost is this is one of the biggest barriers. So there's a company called Verizon, who's a big telecommunication company in the United States. And they implemented a chatbot. And they had to hire data scientists. Does anybody know how many data scientists that they needed to run a chatbot for a telecommunication company? Somebody want to take a guess? I have 1,000 euros in my pocket. No. Maybe 2. It's up to you. No. 60 engineers. 60 engineers at $250,000 each. Think about that. Very, very, very expensive. But now, with all the new technology and ChatGPT 3 and 4, And all the things that are happening out there with these large language models, it's making it a little bit easier. So cost, if you get over that first piece, it's good. But the other thing is, how do you don't want to be reliant on a professional services organization all the time, especially Conecta. You have thousands of people that can help implement this at a cheaper rate, and it's more effective. And this brings a really good business model to you. So that actually is really great for companies like yours and providing that value to your customers. And then finally, the time to deploy. How long does it take to deploy? And I want to make sure I'm on time. How long does it take to deploy? And also, how many people that are involved in deploying that? Because if it takes too long, then you're probably needing to make changes over and over and over again. So if you look at these three things, they come back to one thing. Money, the cost. The cost is time. Time is money and money is time. So the efficiency of being able to deploy the solution is very important. So with that, we want to make application building easier. So how do we do that? Is that still up on the screen? Okay, so we have translator problems and we have laptop problems. We work through it. So these are the things that'll make it easier to deploy AI and automation in the contact center. So one is make the application, like building the application, easier. So if it's easy to build and it's easy to maintain, your costs go down. Also, it makes it easier to go do something else to another company. So that's really important. Make the applications work across all the channels. So by all the channels, we're talking text channels, we're talking email, we're talking your applications on your phone. All that has to look and sound the same. Now, Banco Colombia just said that this was one of their biggest problems. They don't look the same and their customers know it. So guess what? Guess who's going to come and help them? Everybody raise your hand like this. Conecta is going to come and help Banco Colombia with this. Why? Because that's a big problem for them. It'll help them, implement AI better, and that's a great opportunity for you. So integrating the self-service and the live agent journey. There's a balance between human and digital agents. So there's a balance between those two. And that balance is high volume conversations and high value conversations versus things that are actually repetitive. So if I have a password that needs to be reset, guess what? You don't need an agent for that. They can do that self-service, offload that. If they need a balance on their credit card, they don't need to come to an agent all the time. If they need to have documents sent, your consumers don't need to come to that. So that is a balance there. But if they want an empathetic, high-value conversation, you want to get it to a human really quickly. So that's one of the big challenges you have to figure out is what is that balance? So making the training of AI easier. Now, with all the newer technologies, so if anybody uses ChatGPT, just for fun, I do it just for fun. I look up my competition, I look at different statistics around the world, and I have it run reports. So when I was doing my research for Banco Colombia's presentation, I started to ask what challenges do financial institutions face, and it told me, it sent me that, and then 3 minutes later I said, tell me the challenges of what financial institutions face. They sent something different. And it starts to learn more and more to get more information out as it starts to go. That machine learning is really important. But that machine learning is fed by human data that's been put into it, and it's over time. And that's important. So what you're seeing now is, as we go through all these things, is you're going to see that data is so important. And the last thing is you want to measure your outcomes. You want to always have real-time measurement for how things are happening, whether it's what's your CSAT score, what's your NPS, what's your average handle time, how many people are balanced between live agents and virtual agents, who's self-serving all the way through. That data is really important, and it's important in real time. So if you look at all this, the first challenge that needs to be overcome is the challenge of having good data in a centralized area. And once again, I talk with Catalina. The data at Bank of Colombia was they don't have it all centralized. It's all over the place. So they need to build a data lake, a data repository, to be able to communicate the most effectively and securely. Data is secured in one area, and then everything comes to the data, as opposed to the applications needing to find the data everywhere. No preguntas? No. Okay. So, pregunta? No. Okay. So, what does this mean for the agents? Is it going to change their jobs? Well, yeah. So you're going to see that the agents are now going to have, the empathetic conversations. You want them to have those high value conversations, the ones that it brings more money to the company, the ones that it helps customer experience, the ones that, those are the high value conversations to retain customers. And then the AI is going to, the artificial intelligence agent is going to drive high volume, crunch big data. So take all the data and analyze it and be able to deliver it very seamlessly. That's really important. So those two have to balance out. And that balance is called collaborative intelligence. So collaborative intelligence is the balance between human and virtual agents. So, and this is not a question I usually ask, but how many people here think that the balance of human versus virtual agents is going to become like 50-50? Like, do you think it's going to be half virtual, half human? What does that balance look like? Yes, about 50-50? Yeah, I'm seeing it somewhere between 50-50 right now, and maybe like in the future 60-40, where virtual starts to take over, because guess what? For us in this room who have to bring money to Conecta and to Five9, it's very interesting. The cost of an agent is very inexpensive. The cost of a virtual agent is actually even more inexpensive, but it's more inexpensive because you don't have to train them. You don't have to, they don't get sick. You don't have all these issues. They're continually working 24/7. Oh, and by the way, that agent can speak thousands of languages. Oh, and that agent can, continuously learn over multiple customers. So it's super agent. But that's just for automation, and that's just for self-service, not for, for actual high-value conversations. So out in the industry, in the world, that actually said, well, all the agents are going to disappear. It's all going to be taken over by AI. They don't know anything about our industry because they don't understand that empathy and all that is very important. So it dropped the stock market like $30 a share for like our company, because, and your companies, and all the companies that do this, they're like, oh, they're going to all go out of business. And then everybody comes in and goes, let me tell you. So our CEO came out and said, AI is this jet engine, this amazing engine. But if I want to go from Los Angeles to Madrid, I can't put this engine on my back and fly across the world. Not right now. Maybe like in 20 years, but you have a lot of problems. You have oxygen, can your body handle that speed by itself? You have all these things. Oh, is there enough fuel in this jetpack to take you across the world? No. So really what you're looking at is that the jet engines are the AI and the automation. The airplane is the people, the technology, the workforce management, the workforce optimization, all the diagnostic tools, artificial intelligence, the analytics tools. All of that is the airplane. So you need the entire airplane to take you from Los Angeles to Madrid. You can't just take the jetpacks. So that's really the analogy that we're looking at here, is we're looking at an entire technology breadth. This is why Five9 is so powerful, because we're not reliant on one set of jet engines. Today, maybe there are a lot of companies that make the jet engines. I love airplanes, so Pratt & Whitney, General Electric, there's a lot of different ones that make the engines. Rolls-Royce makes great engines. But what if you need more powerful engines? What do? Well, you switch them out. And that's the great thing about how we built our platform. We were able to use that to switch them out and make it more efficient. So So with that, we talk about the balance between human and machines. So there are going to be some jobs that aren't going to be able to, that can be replaced by agents. So if you, or by virtual agents. If you look at Amazon, so Amazon is very, very, if you ever bought from there, they have a lot of, you never talk to anybody, you never call anybody, it's very rare. But they're starting to use drones to take and deliver the packages. Or if you look at Uber or Google, they have cars that drive with nobody driving them. So they can take people to different areas. So, okay, maybe not all the taxi drivers, but maybe some of the taxi drivers don't have jobs. Maybe it's safer, I don't know. Right now it looks safer because there are less accidents that are happening with those vehicles because they're learning. But they have to learn and take time. So you'll see that there is a true balance in that, and that's really the value that you get. So there's this true value between human and machine learning and all the different capabilities that it does. So when you go into the insurance business, you want to have a human agent discuss empathetic conversations like your house burned down, death in the family, things like that. But you want to have the virtual agent reset the password, send over a policy, maybe give you advertisement on something like if you want to quote on a car insurance, that can all be done automated and then you deliver it to a human. So you have that balance out. So I'll talk a little bit about, because this is just one customer set, but this is about like the financial industry. So if you look, the financial industry is actually going through some changes. And this goes across a lot of different industries. So they say that the biggest issues that financial industry is experiencing is everything working still with the translator? Okay, good. Okay, lack of personalization. So lack of personalization, what does that mean? That means that I want the agent on the other side, the business on the other side, to know who I am. I want them to be able to go, hi Nick, how are you? I noticed that you have a lot of money in the bank with us, and if we did this with it, I can make you 6% on your money right now for the next 6 months, but that also does this, this, and this for you. And they really have a conversation rather than being, oh, what do you need? Oh, they want to have that true personalization, and that has to go across all channels, all the way through to the agent. There are a lot of complex in products and services, so a lot of people don't know how to invest, and they make it very complicated to invest. So that financial industry is running through complications of the financial products. The channels are inefficient. So as we said before, the channels are not using the same data across, and they're not providing the same interfaces for people to work. That's really important. That's one thing that we found out as a company that's really important to have uniform interfaces across the whole thing. Security. And there's some statistics that show the first transaction that you do actually will, you can lose that customer for life. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. And limited choice. So choice is very important. The choice to be able to do things in your channel, your way, how you want to do it, with the products you want to do. Very balanced approach. You need to have that. You need to have those choices. And if you look, here's a couple things why the customer service failed. And the customer service failed because of lack of empathy. We talked about that. It's very important. Bad communication, support communication. They weren't able to resolve the problem. They didn't know what the issue was, and they didn't make a good judgment of it. Inconsistency of experience. The channels weren't all matching up, so exactly the biggest problems that are having, that's affecting customer experience. Lack of ownership. So if I had a problem and Catalina was the one answering the call and she couldn't fix the problem and she goes, well, I don't know how to fix it, and you're done, go hang up. That's one of the worst experiences, and that's one of the things that they're saying is that the agent on the other line isn't helping them. The way that should work, it goes to Catalina goes, I'm not the right person for this, but hold on, let me get you to Luz. Luz Elena will be on the line with us together, we'll work through it, and then I'll hand it off to her. And then Luz can say, oh yeah, this is da-da-da-da. Oh, but this isn't my part. Let me hand it over to Diana. Diana can help you out with this piece, but let me stay with you to make sure that it's good. So making sure that you have the ownership to be able to resolve the problem with somebody, and that's very important. Long wait times are consistent across the board. So if somebody says, oh, our SLA is to handle, to have average response time of 20 seconds for 75% of the calls. Okay, that's really good, but let's say you had 80%. Let's say you're meeting your SLA and you have 80%. That means 20% of 4 million calls, or if you have a lot more than that, if you have 10 million calls, that means you're dropping a lot of people and the service levels aren't being met in a lot of different areas. That's a really big gap. So that's part of the things that we're seeing in the financial industry too. And of course, the last thing is failure to meet expectations. So if I expected to get something resolved very easily and it's not being met, that's a very frustrating task. And that's really tough to do too. And here's some statistics around it. So 46%, according to PricewaterhouseCoopers, said that customers would leave their bank after one bad experience. So one bad experience and they leave. Almost half of their customers. If you look at Forrester, they said that they expect personalization. 63% of their survey says they expect to be a personalized service. Oracle says that they think that most issues can be resolved over automated channels, so all over self-service. That's great. So that balance are some things that play into the financial industry, and this is across just that sector. So there's a way to deploy all this, and once again, we said that low volume but high value should be focused on as one strategy, and we're really missing out on things. So with that, I'll say that there's a balance of it. It's a pleasure to have a few minutes to be able to speak about this topic with you all. And I think we're going to be demonstrating, Edwin is going to come up and demonstrate a little bit of the solution, how it looks like, and he's going to do it in Spanish, so you won't need a translator, which will be better. So thank you everybody, I appreciate the opportunity to come here, and thank you for being a great customer and partner for Five9. You're both a customer and a partner for us, and we are looking forward to some great things with your entire team. So thank you, and thank you to everybody who supported to make this day possible so we can come and present to you. So thank you everyone. I can open up for a second. Any questions on anything? No? All right, over to Isabel.
Gracias, señor. En un ratito vamos a pasar a un break, pero antes de pasar a esto, lo que buscamos de que ustedes conozcan de Five9 es que queremos mejorar la experiencia del cliente desde cualquier punto de contacto que tenga el usuario final con la empresa que quieran ellos contactarse. Five9 integra 360 grados los puntos de contacto del cliente. No importa si se contactan por redes, por WhatsApp, por voz, por mail, pero que la compañía que utiliza nuestra plataforma tenga la visual de lo que está pasando con el negocio. Y así los gerentes, tanto de marketing como de finanzas, los gerentes de las compañías sepan dónde deben tomar decisiones basadas en las datas y la información que nosotros les suministramos desde la herramienta. Y a través de toda esta operación que ofrecen ustedes como Conecta, poder integrarlos y ser unos solos. Uno de los mayores problemas de hoy en día para la gente que opera personal y los contact centers es la rotación de personal, que equivale, según el mercado, al 20% de rotación, lo cual es una cosa increíble, el capacitar a una persona que venga y aprenda de la política de mi compañía o de la compañía a la cual está administrando la operación y que a los 3 meses se va. Y en esta investigación que estuvimos haciendo, porque es que se van las personas de las operaciones, es porque la frustración que tienen los operarios, la gente que opera la herramienta al estar haciendo tareas repetitivas y monótonas donde sienten que no están generando valor. Y adicional que el personal que contratamos para operar son gente joven, que no tolera la frustración. O sea, quieren estar tranquilos, relajados, tienen el acceso a la información de una forma increíble y muy rápida, y asimismo quiere que el mundo opere para ellos. Y cuando lo llevamos a que hagan tareas de, sí señor, su cita es para mañana a las 10, la otra llamada, su cita es para el jueves a las 11, la otra llamada, tareas repetitivas que podría ser un agente virtual inteligente, como lo está hablando Nick, que es hacia donde se está moviendo el mercado, y las tareas en las que sí requieran que se ejerza un juicio, que se ejerza de verdad un pensamiento crítico, poner a un agente humano, ahí donde vamos a reducir la rotación y donde vamos a poner a la gente humana a que hagan de verdad y generen sentido en la operación de nuestros clientes. Uno de los temas que también tiene Five9 es que le presta la asistencia a la gente humana. Entonces, en ese análisis que hicimos de la operación, el agente humano, antes de terminar la llamada, tiene que transcribir toda la información, porque si no le ingresa la otra llamada, y qué estrés, porque entonces me van a calificar mal, y por estar en todo esto, porque no son máquinas, pierde qué es lo que le está diciendo el usuario. Nosotros con Charla Nick D les va técnicamente a decir cómo funciona, le prestamos esa asistencia a los agentes humanos. Está el asistente virtual inteligente escuchando con el agente humano qué es lo que está diciendo el usuario, está transcribiendo toda la información y le está diciendo, bueno, lo que tú tienes que presentarle basado en lo que está diciendo el cliente es este. Y le está presentando consejos, porque a veces el agente humano pues no recuerda, bueno, esto le puedo dar esta oferta, o esta acción, esta reclamación, y el asistente virtual está prestando toda esa asistencia para que el agente humano se dedique a escuchar al usuario y prestar de verdad un servicio diferencial. A eso es que cuando termina la llamada, toda la información quedó guardada en el ticket y él no tuvo que transcribir nada y puede pasar fácilmente a la siguiente llamada. O si tengo que pasarlo a otra área, no que luego, señor, cuéntame para qué es que me está llamando, y el usuario ya ha pasado 30 minutos en la llamada con 2 áreas diferentes y tiene que volver a contar la historia. Entonces, esto presta toda la trazabilidad y cuando llega a la otra área, tiene toda esta información. Bueno, listo, entonces tú te comunicaste para mí, para esto y esto, ¿lo confirmas? Bueno, sí. Otro de los temas que es súper importante que también presta nuestros agentes virtuales inteligentes es los IBRs transaccionales, que yo me imagino que ustedes como usuarios también les ha tocado, que para ventas más que 1, para compras más que 2, y Dios mío, y si estás llamando por una reclamación, entonces tu ánimo no es el mejor, ¿no? Quieres desencadenar toda la frustración que tienes, y puedes pasar media hora hasta que te conteste un agente humano y tienes que contar la historia y te equivocaste de área. Ahí no era, ¿cierto? Y luego pase a otra área y vuelva y cuente la historia, y Dios quiera que no se te caiga la llamada, porque si se cae la llamada, terrible. Entonces, con nuestro agente virtual inteligente, y más adelante podemos ir como buscando más de casos de uso, pero buscamos que en vez de que esté todo ese IBR, el agente virtual inteligente te pueda contestar y te pueda decir, oye Carlos, ¿en qué puedo ayudarte? Que apenas marcaste tu cédula o el dígito de la cuenta, puedan identificar quién me está llamando y en qué puedo ayudarte. Mira, que es que se me cayó el servicio, no tengo internet, no sé. Y este puede identificar, bueno, es una reclamación por soporte. Si el agente virtual inteligente puede entregarle la solución, pueda darle de una vez la respuesta, y si no, identifique a qué área específica debe enviarlo sin necesidad de que pase por toda esta ruta que a veces es como sin salida y frustrante, y en la cual los gerentes no tienen la visual de lo que está pasando. En Colombia, sobre todo en el sector de salud, las EPS que han cerrado es porque los gerentes no han podido tomar decisiones porque no tienen la visual de todas las reclamaciones de los pacientes y no han podido saber dónde tomar decisiones, porque como no tienen mapeado todo lo que está pasando, porque se caen las llamadas, porque se pierde, porque no hay registro, nuestro sistema le va a permitir a los gerentes poder tomar decisiones basadas en todos los tipos de llamadas, tickets que se creen por WhatsApp, por redes sociales. Porque otro de los temas que prestamos al tener la visual de 360 grados es que, por ejemplo, no sé si les ha pasado en los clientes y operaciones que manejan, que un usuario escribe por WhatsApp y se genera un ticket y es un agente diferente que lo está atendiendo. Llama, se genera otro ticket y es otra agente que lo está atendiendo. Si escribe por redes, se genera otro ticket y es otro agente. Puede ser para la misma reclamación. No hay una visual de todo. Entonces, acá no importa por dónde se contacte el cliente, va a ser un solo agente que atienda el mismo requerimiento sin que se generen reprocesos que a veces están sin darle respuesta al cliente. Todo esto lo que yo se lo estoy diciendo en términos comerciales, pero también desde la posición como usuario, que me ha tocado, al igual que ustedes, todo este tema frustrante cuando queremos buscar un punto de contacto. Y queremos, junto con ustedes y con todo lo que prestamos en cuanto a servicios de Five9 Conecta, poder sumar y poder llegar de verdad a la solución que necesita el cliente. Hay algunas tareas que las pueda manejar un agente virtual inteligente, hay otras tareas que sí o sí se requieren asistencia humana, pero la idea es que en conjunto podamos identificar dónde debe ir la tecnología, dónde debe ir la eficiencia humana o dónde vamos los dos. Y así no llegar como ustedes llegan al mercado, es que este cliente me está buscando para 100 posiciones y entonces vamos a mirar cómo salimos más barato, porque el de allá está en tantos pesos y el mío en tantos pesos. Aquí vamos a mirar todo el modelo de negocio del señor. ¿Usted cuántas operaciones, cuántas posiciones tiene? Tengo 100 posiciones. ¿Haciendo qué? Miremos que esas posiciones las podría hacer un agente virtual inteligente. Hicimos una prueba con un cliente de España en el que pasó de 160 posiciones humanas a 46, teniendo un ahorro mensual de 38.000 euros. Mejorando los tiempos de respuesta, pasó de 8 minutos en que le contestara un agente humano a 1.5 en la resolución de los requerimientos. Y es aquí donde debemos nosotros ser pioneros en Colombia en poder adoptar esa tecnología, porque muchos hablan de inteligencia artificial, de herramientas tecnológicas, pero hagamos un conjunto de un todo para hacer negocios verdaderamente inteligentes, donde mejoremos el tema económico, la eficiencia en las respuestas a los clientes, donde ya no estemos peleando con otros BPOs porque este me lo está dejando tantos pesos más barato que yo, entonces tengo que ir a sacrificar la rentabilidad de la compañía y a sacrificar mi trabajo pues para no perder el negocio. Y donde estamos ofreciendo lo mismo por lo mismo. Entonces lo que proponemos nosotros es hagamos un estudio, hagamos un modelo de verdad diferencial, digamos, señor cliente, vamos a mejorar los tiempos de respuesta en tanto, vamos a automatizar esto, las posiciones que vas a necesitar es esto, y si estabas pagando 20 pesos vas a pagar 15, pero con esos resultados. Un agente virtual inteligente pues no se va de vacaciones, no hay que pagarle seguridad, pero no aplica para todo. Hay que mirar en qué tareas les podemos poner de forma que hagamos eficiente el negocio. Esa es mi presentación comercial. Ya le doy paso a Edwin, quien es nuestro especialista y Solution Consultant, que le habla técnicamente cómo se conecta cada cosita. Pero yo desde el modelo de negocios quiero ser para ustedes un conector y un facilitador de traer a las personas que se necesiten para hacer viable el negocio. Si hay que traer el especialista de inteligencia artificial, lo traemos. Si hay que traer el especialista de analítica de datos, lo traemos. Pero como entre conjunto armamos un modelo de negocio diferente. Muchísimas gracias por el espacio. Lamentablemente nos tenemos que ir porque Nick tiene que sí o sí estar en un vuelo en unos minutos, pero ya los dejo con Daniel y con Edwin, quien nos va a estar prestando todo el apoyo.
La idea de esta presentación es mostrarles a ustedes, no sé cuántas personas están familiarizados con Five9, qué productos tenemos o qué ofrecemos, cuál sería nuestro portafolio. En este caso, básicamente, un poco de historia de Five9. Nosotros cuando empezamos hace más de 20 años, empezamos como una plataforma 100% en la nube, siempre sí hemos sido plataforma en la nube. La idea como empezamos es trabajando con nuestros agentes en casa, siempre se pensó para los agentes que trabajan desde casa, con la opción de tener un scripting, toda la grabación de las llamadas, todo lo que es la parte de las encuestas, tener que ser un marcador con todos los tipos de marcación para las campañas de mercadeo y las campañas de ventas. Toda la parte de inbound, outbound, llamadas salientes, entrantes. Una vez que ya pasamos por la parte de la voz, que como empezamos, comenzamos a tener integraciones directamente preconstruidas, y estas integraciones son con nuestras plataformas o CRMs más conocidos, ¿sí?, del mercado, como es Microsoft Dynamics. Tenemos también toda la conexión o integración con Salesforce, integraciones con ServiceNow, Oracle NetSuite, y también tenemos algunos partners como Freshworks y Customer que han creado sus propios adaptadores que van embedidos dentro de sus propios CRMs, lo cual también tenemos todos los aplicativos o los APIs para poder que nuestros partners o nuestros clientes puedan hacer lo mismo dentro de sus in-house CRM. Una vez que ya tenemos toda la integración con nuestros CRMs, pasamos a la parte de las comunicaciones unificadas. Comunicaciones unificadas donde nos conectamos con lo que es Zoom Phone, Microsoft Teams, y también tenemos otros partners que tienen conexión con Fuse o Tetra10 que tienen una conexión directa. ¿A qué me refiero con comunicaciones unificadas? Digamos que la llamada le llega a un agente y el agente necesita conectarse con alguien corporativo. Por el lado corporativo, desde el lado del contact center, no hay una conexión directa con estas personas que están en el corporativo. Entonces, por medio de Zoom Phone y de Microsoft Teams, se puede reconocer la presencia de estas personas, si están disponibles, si están en el teléfono o si no están conectadas dentro del sistema de Teams en este caso. ¿Okay? El propio Five9, tenemos un Five9 WFO o un WFM, y lo que hace es el Workforce Management, toda la parte de la grabación de pantalla, todo lo que es la gestión de calidad, la interacción de análisis de interacciones, ya sean interacciones de voz, interacciones de canales digitales como chat, email, y también tenemos todo lo que es la gamificación. ¿Okay? Otro producto que tenemos o que traemos también dentro de Five9 es toda la parte de canales digitales, la omnicanalidad. Esto lo podemos hacer por medio de email, chat, conexiones con redes sociales, todo lo que es mensajería de texto, WhatsApp. Podemos tener integraciones con video chat. Si nuestros clientes desean tener una conexión de video o algo directamente desde el cliente, pues ahí lo podemos tener. O si queremos hacer una opción de tener una conexión por medio del browser, también lo podemos traer. ¿Vale? Bueno. Dentro de la parte de mensajería, pues tenemos toda la mensajería por el medio o conexiones con WhatsApp, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, de pronto algún Telegram o si alguien quiere tener alguna otra mensajería, también lo tenemos. Tenemos todos los APIs de mensajería para conectarnos directamente con estos aplicativos. Ya una vez que tenemos toda esa parte de la omnicanalidad, pues ya empezamos a pasar con todo lo que es la automatización de flujos de trabajo, el WFA, Workflow Automation, y lo hacemos conectándonos a más de 50 aplicaciones. Todas estas conexiones ya están creadas. Entonces, si alguien por lo menos tiene un HubSpot, tiene un Soho, tiene alguna forma de conectarse por Gmail y quiere hacer alguna integración con nuestro aplicativo, pues se puede hacer. Desde aquí, ¿qué podemos hacer? Tener todo lo que son notificaciones tipificadas, monitoreo social, hacer follow-up o un seguimiento de otras aplicaciones, tener un dashboard de multimedia para la plataforma y poder tener notificaciones proactivas. Todo esto lo podemos hacer por medio de nuestro WFM. Y de aquí llegamos a lo que mencionaba anteriormente Luz, que es nuestro agente virtual inteligente, o empezamos a adicionar más inteligencia artificial. Dentro de la inteligencia artificial, pues ya empezamos a tener todo lo que es el speech to text, lo que es la parte de los bots, ya sea un voice o un chat. Tenemos toda la parte de la biometría de voz. Si alguien desea hacer un reconocimiento biométrico, yo necesito saber el saldo de mi cuenta, pero primero tenemos que autenticar por medio de biometría de voz si esa persona que está llamando es en realidad la persona que está pidiendo ese saldo. Podemos también tener todo lo que es la asistencia de agente o el Agent Assist, que también lo mencionó Luz. Nos permite tener, de cierta forma, pasar información a los agentes directamente en tiempo real para que ellos puedan hablar o dar una resolución a estos clientes sin necesidad de tener que abrir otras aplicaciones o tener que perder la visión de este agente, que es poder responder esas preguntas de esos clientes en tiempo real. Y para ello utilizamos lo que mencionaba Nick. Nosotros utilizamos diferentes engines. Aquí menciono algunos como son Google Dialogflow, Amazon Flex, IBM Watson, pero también pues ya estamos incorporando todo lo que es la parte de OpenAI, lo que es el ChatGPT, ¿no? ¿Preguntas hasta ahora? ¿Todo bien? Ok. Entonces, somos una plataforma en la nube, crecimos en la nube y como pueden ver aquí somos cloud to cloud, entonces vamos de nube, nos conectamos de nube a nube. Las nubes como son Salesforce, Microsoft, Zendesk, todas que ustedes ven allí, que ya hemos hablado. También tenemos toda la parte de seguridad de datos, nuestros APIs. Dime.
Cuando tú dices que se conecta de nube a nube y y ahorita pues que estuvieron en Bancolombia. Bancolombia está llevando toda su operación de contact center a Genesis Cloud, pero tiene una parte de Genesis Cloud, continúa teniendo otra parte pues con nosotros en Genesis Engage. ¿Dónde ven ustedes esta solución con Bancolombia? ¿Cómo se puede integrar? No sé si, como estás diciendo, de nube a nube, qué información, o sea, ¿qué le pueden ofrecer hoy ustedes a Bancolombia?
A ver, nosotros, buena pregunta, nosotros para podernos conectar con cualquier otro equipo tenemos que hacerlo por medio de web services. Todo tiene que ser directamente en la nube, no nos podemos conectar con on-premises, equipos on-premises o software que sea on-premises. Para ello necesitamos siempre por medio de un middleware, ¿vale? Entonces, para ello, básicamente por el lado del IVA, que es lo que podemos de cierta manera ofrecer en el sentido de tener toda la parte de la inteligencia artificial, ¿sí? Porque ellos me imagino que con Genesis tendrán toda la parte de voz y toda la parte de llamadas. Entonces, para hacer esta conexión de enrutamientos, agente virtual, voice bot, tocaría hacerlo por medio de nube, ¿vale?
Pero ustedes tienen que tener acceso a la data, que eso no lo entrega Genesis, pues no lo están entregando.
A ver, por medio de los web services pueden ellos accesar la data, no necesitamos tener la data nosotros, simplemente por medio de web service uno llega, hace los queries, hace toda la información, todo lo que se pida, lo extrae la información que necesita y solamente se pasa al cliente final lo que le está pidiendo de información, digámoslo así. O solamente se hace en el backend, todo lo que tú estás trayendo de data de Genesis, haces tus queries, busca tu solución o tu respuesta y luego la pasas directamente al lado de Finite, ¿vale? Ahora, de cierta manera se quedaría en Genesis, porque lo único que necesitaría es el IVA, y el IVA sería un engine separado que va a hacer solamente la parte de hacer digamos el enrutamiento, como hacer un IVR, sino un poco más inteligente, de autoservicio. O sea, en ese caso no necesitamos traer nada ya, simplemente es conectarse, hacer todo lo que tenga que hacer y salir.
Pero ellos vieron alguna posibilidad, pues, la reunión que tuvieron hoy, ¿vieron alguna opción, pues, o alguna posibilidad?
Sí.
No,
no, mira, no, a ver. No, a ver. No. Lo que pasa es que no quiero hablar de algo que no debo estar hablando, ¿vale? O sea, yo quiero que ustedes conozcan Finite y sepan los productos de Finite. Parte comercial se la dejo a la parte comercial, ¿vale? O sea, nosotros sí tuvimos una buena reunión esta mañana, ¿para qué te voy a decir mentiras? Sí tuvimos una buena reunión. A la final de la reunión no tienen buenas expectativas, se ve que necesitan muchas cosas de las que hablamos. Vamos a tener una reunión de mostrar y hacer un demo, etc. ¿Vale? Y hasta ahí lo voy a dejar porque no quiero hablar de...
Tranquilo. Yo tengo mis fuerzas.
No, está bien, está bien.
Edwin,
Vale, dime.
Pero pregunta, ¿tiene sentido hablar de Finite y Genesis al mismo tiempo en un proceso? ¿O uno absorbería al otro?
No, a ver, nosotros no vamos a hablar de la competencia, ¿sí? O sea, en el sentido de si podemos integrarnos, a ver, como conecta, si podemos integrarnos, si podemos hacer esa fusión, lo podemos hacer y podemos hablar, ¿vale? Ahora, si vamos a decir, es que ustedes tienen que quitar esto para poder meter Finite, no, si lo podemos integrar, no hay ningún problema, ¿vale? Lo importante es saber qué vamos a hacer o qué quiere el cliente final hacer. Si ellos dicen, es que yo no quiero quitar Genesis, bueno, digamos a ver cómo trabajamos juntos para poder entrar en el mercado y poder decir, bueno, listo, mira, te estoy mostrando que sí podemos, ahora déjanos mostrarte que podemos hacer algo más, ¿sí? Que básicamente es más o menos la pregunta que nos están haciendo. O sea, ¿qué dijeron esta mañana? Pues, o sea, no vamos a decir, quiten Genesis, no, porque nuestro trabajo no es venir a hablar mal de nuestra competencia ni a decir es que no sirve, no. Nosotros queremos mostrar de que sí podemos, de que nuestro producto es bueno, que tiene una buena calidad y que nos podemos integrar. Ahora, que va a funcionar mejor, va a funcionar, eso ya lo sabremos cuando hagamos esa fusión, ¿sí? Nosotros sabemos que nuestro producto con todas las integraciones, esto que yo estoy mostrando es todo nuestro producto y todo nuestro producto con estas integraciones funciona sin problemas, ¿vale? Ahora, si tenemos que hacer integraciones, ya hay que mirar qué es lo que necesita hacer, cuál es el alcance de esas integraciones, ¿vale? Preguntas. Tenemos todos los APIs, entre comillas, gratis, ¿vale? Están abiertos. Una vez que nuestros clientes tienen nuestro producto, ellos pueden utilizar los APIs y los web services como lo necesiten, ya sea para hacer pruebas, para hacer producción, para hacer lo que necesiten, ¿vale? Nosotros no tenemos ningún cobro por ellos, siempre están allá abiertos. Tenemos toda la parte de seguridad, que somos PCI compliant, HIPAA compliant, GDPR, SOC2, etc. Entonces, por ese lado estamos cubiertos también por el lado de seguridad. ¿Preguntas? ¿Algo más de...?
Una vez se defina el alcance de pues, lo que se vaya a realizar, ¿de cuánto tiempo estamos hablando para iniciar con las implementaciones?
Vale, buena pregunta. Normalmente una implementación de Five9, si tú empiezas de 50, 100, 200 sillas, normalmente toma entre 4 y 6 semanas, ¿vale? Normalmente 8 semanas. Ya dependiendo de cuántas campañas, cuántos usuarios, qué tan complicado es el IBR, qué tan complicado es el IDI, qué tanta implementación tenga que hacer con la parte de inteligencia artificial, ¿sí? Normalmente siempre damos un lapso o un tiempo para ser prudentes y no decir, es que una semana no tengo. Puede que sí, ¿vale? Porque es que tener un dominio y montar una campaña no se demora más de 5 minutos una vez que ya está configurada, o sea, ya está instalado una vez que pasa todo el papeleo, lo más complicado es el papeleo. Ya es dependiendo de qué tanto conocimiento tengas, es sencillo, crear un usuario, crear una campaña, crear un IBR es sencillo, no toma mucho tiempo, ¿vale? Pero siempre hay que tratar de ser prudente en el sentido de
No, importante complementar, Edwin, que ya estamos también en el proceso de formación dentro del equipo de tecnología, no solo Colombia, sino los demás países, para que tengamos internamente la capacidad de hacer este tipo de despliegues. Y obviamente, inicialmente vamos a estar acompañados de Nubeto como partner implementador, pero la apuesta nuestra es a tener autonomía para la implementación de las distintas campañas y los clientes que nos vamos a estar montando sobre Five9.
Exacto. A ver, yo un poco más Five9 a decir, oye, Five9, ¿me haces esta implementación? Yo te voy a decir, sí, lo podemos hacer, pero nos demoramos entre 4, 6 semanas, 8 semanas, también dependiendo la cantidad de gente que haya disponible para hacer la implementación. Pero es cierto, ustedes también pueden hacer integraciones, la Nubeto, o sea, hay una fuerza laboral detrás de eso, ¿vale?
José, y a hoy. ¿Campaña ya montada?
Todavía no.
Todavía no, Carlos.
Todavía no, ya casi.
Estamos en
Ya casi. El que nos contaron.
El espacio es para que no crezca.
La parte de inteligencia artificial, pues la contamos con nuestros agentes virtuales inteligentes, nuestro IVA, que es lo que estaba mencionando anteriormente, toda la parte de los bots, de los voice bots, del chatbot, donde podemos ir y hacer, digamos, un autoservicio, donde el cliente puede llegar a hacer preguntas, lo que mencionaba Nick, si yo quiero cambiar mi dirección o si yo quiero cambiar una cita, lo que decía también Luz acerca de toda la parte de los chats y toda esa parte de la inteligencia artificial. El Agent Assist, todo lo que es el asistente virtual para los agentes, en caso tal de que necesitemos tener unas configuraciones de plantillas que sean de ayuda para nuestros agentes en tiempo real. La parte de los agentes virtuales inteligentes, todo lo que es los chats, SMS, WhatsApp, todo lo que es la parte de mensajería. El AI Insights, que es básicamente la parte de analítica, ¿sí? Hagamos de cuenta un Speed Analytics, pero un poco ya más por el lado de Five9. Representa toda la información del Speed Analytics, Interaction Analytics, lo que es la parte de chat, email y que sea dentro de una sola plataforma. El WFA, que nos permite hacer toda la parte de automatización para conectar diferentes datos y diferentes aplicaciones. El AI Summaries. Este AI Summaries lo utilizamos nosotros, Five9, y aquí es donde utilizamos mucho más la parte de la inteligencia artificial, utilizando el ChatGPT. ¿Qué sucede con AI Summaries? Lo que hacemos nosotros es, por el medio de la gente del Agent Assist, traemos la información, la conversación entre el cliente y el agente y le pasamos esa recompilación a la gente para que él lea su propio sumario. Entonces puede estar 5 minutos, 10 minutos con el cliente hablando, cliente-agente, y luego le decimos a la gente, mire, esto es más o menos en un resumen, un sumarizado lo que usted habló con este cliente. Lo acepta, lo modifica, lo cambia, y así es como estamos utilizando toda la parte de inteligencia artificial. El Five9 Analytics es un poco más base de reportería, toda la parte de la reportería un poco más avanzada. Nosotros tenemos más de 140 reportes, como le mencionaba anteriormente, pero estos reportes ya vamos a empezar a meterle un poco más de inteligencia artificial. Y la parte del speech analytics para poder analizar las conversaciones, extraer la información, enviarla a cierta reportería, etc. Y tenemos más para traer dependiendo de qué tan evolucionado vamos avanzando, qué estamos llegando con toda la parte de inteligencia artificial. Ya vendrán otros productos o otros avances y mejoras dentro de nuestro portafolio.
Entonces, por el lado de Five9 tenemos la parte de... Tenemos dos opciones para Five9. Five9 tenemos diferentes adaptadores. Como ustedes pueden ver aquí, si están familiarizados, no se puede ver muy bien. Está la parte de Salesforce, ¿sí? Y dentro de Salesforce nosotros tenemos un adaptador embedido donde simplemente la gente lo único que necesita hacer es manejar toda la parte de la omnicanalidad directamente en una ventana, ¿sí? Que está embedida dentro de la parte de Salesforce, y concentrarse en sus clientes por medio del CRM. Entonces este adaptador que está embedido dentro de Salesforce es uno de los tantos que tenemos para la parte de Five9. El adaptador principal de Five9, que llamamos el ADP, Agent Desktop Plus, cubre toda la parte del browser. Dentro de este ustedes pueden ver diferentes opciones. Está la parte de la voz, la parte de correo de voz, mensajería de voz, la parte de chat, correo electrónico, y también se puede ver toda la actividad que ha trabajado ese agente durante ese tiempo o el tiempo que ha tenido. Entonces, por lo menos yo aquí puedo ver cuántas llamadas me han llegado, cuántos chats he trabajado, y dentro del chat yo puedo ver todo el historial o todo lo que se ha hecho durante esa conversación, todo lo que se ha dicho en esa conversación. Por el lado del correo electrónico, podemos recibir correos, mirar qué correos tengo en la cola, cuáles están asignados, y también poder responder correos. Por el lado del correo, yo puedo darle una respuesta o puedo decir simplemente que deseo trabajar en otro correo, lo puedo bloquear. Por el lado del correo la gente también puede tener asistencias. Asistencias son de... déjame lo muestro en el lado del chat. Las asistencias son scripts, son guiones, ya que han estado creados para que la gente no tenga que escribir todo lo que tiene una respuesta, sino que esa respuesta ya ha sido preconstruida. De esta manera le ahorramos tiempo a los agentes para poder responder esos chats. Desde aquí también podemos adjuntar archivos, se pueden transferir los chats. Entonces este adaptador tiene toda la parte de la omnicanalidad de los agentes, ¿sí? Toda la parte de la voz, toda la parte de chat, email, redes sociales, y también yo mencionaba algo acerca de WFO, WFM. En este adaptador también podemos embeder toda la parte que es la adherencia, todo el schedule del Workforce Management. Si este agente tiene sus grabaciones o sus disputas por las evaluaciones, también podemos traer esa información, y también podemos mostrar la mensajería entre el supervisor y el agente directamente en este adaptador. Hay otras opciones dentro de este adaptador, como son la parte de un address book, donde ellos pueden hacer la transferencia, la conferencia, encontrar qué contactos hay para hacer estas llamadas. También podemos, ustedes ven aquí el UC conectado. Acuerden, yo hablé de comunicaciones unificadas, este es comunicación unificada, y en este caso lo tenemos directamente con Zoom. Entonces, si yo por lo menos encuentro alguien que está en verde, podemos ver que esta persona está disponible. Si está en rojo es que no está disponible, y si está en gris es que no está conectado a la plataforma. Y por el lado de la comunicación unificada, pues creamos otros grupos. Esto es transferencias a competencias. Por ejemplo, este grupo UC Group, aquí podemos ver quién está conectado y ver esa presencia. Me dice que está desconectado, o puede decirme que está away o que no está conectado, ¿vale? Entonces, todo esto es más o menos para que ustedes tengan una idea de lo que yo mencioné anteriormente de nuestros productos, lo vean ya directamente cómo luciría ese producto en caso del agente, ¿okay? Yo mencioné algo de Agent Assist. Por el lado del Agent Assist, aquí aparecería, si yo hago una llamada, ustedes pueden empezar a ver que esto es la parte de el transcript de mi conversación. Si yo estoy hablando con mi cliente o con mi cliente y mi agente, podría ver toda la información del cliente y del agente. Aquí está la información que mencionaba acerca de la plantilla que yo puedo crear, donde automáticamente se iría llenando los requerimientos que yo tengo de para este agente. Debe verificar que reconoció la identidad del cliente, decir de sus derechos de que la llamada va a estar grabada, y aquí estaría la parte del sumario. Entonces, una vez que ya empezamos a hacer la llamada, estaría la parte del sumario y donde muestra el sumario para este agente, el cual él puede descargar, copiar o simplemente decir que está correcto, confirmar. Entonces, aquí estamos viendo el agente, WFM, WFO, la parte de QM, que es la parte de calidad. Estamos mostrando la parte del Agent Assist. ¿Sí? Ahora voy a pasar un poco a la parte de... yo lo puedo hacer, por ejemplo, desde el lado del WhatsApp. Si yo envío un mensaje, le va a llegar directamente a ese supervisor, y el supervisor va a tener la opción de poder continuar o monitorear a esta persona. Si está esta persona en una llamada, yo puedo escuchar esa llamada, hacer un monitoreo, hacer una visualización de la pantalla. Entonces yo puedo ver lo que está trabajando esa gente en el otro lado de la pantalla. También podemos ver todo el estado de las colas, cuántas llamadas están en cola, cuántos correos están en cola, cuántos chats están en cola. Por el lado de los agentes también podemos ver el lado de sus grabaciones. Esta pantalla está grande. Por lo menos si yo quiero ver los recordatorios, ¿sí? Yo puedo agendar un recordatorio para mañana, decir necesito llamar a Pablo a las 3 de la tarde, motivo cobranza, pago tarjeta de crédito, etc. Y esto le va a traer un pop-up a ese agente. Cuántas llamadas dejé en espera, cuántas grabaciones tengo, yo puedo escuchar las grabaciones. Si esa grabación tiene pantalla, yo puedo ver esa grabación también en su pantalla. Entonces todo esto es lo que ofrece Five9 por el lado del supervisor. Por el lado de la reportería, como lo mencionaba, tenemos más de 140 reportes estándar. ¿No se escuchan? No, tranquila. ¿Dónde quedaron? Desde las 3. Agentes, se puede ver la pantalla de los agentes, se puede monitorear todos los chats, toda la parte de voz, toda la parte de correos. El lado de los skills o el estado de la sede, cuántas llamadas están en cola, cuántos correos en cola. Por el lado de las campañas, si hay campañas salientes, campañas entrantes. Cuántas listas de llamadas tenemos, cuántos récords han sido llamados, cuántos han sido contestados, manejo de usuarios. Si por lo menos alguien dijo, yo voy para la casa y no se deslogueó, podemos desloguear a este usuario desde el lado supervisor. También podemos tener la parte del WFO embedido dentro del supervisor. Solo para aclarar, este es el Five9 WFO, WFM. ¿Sí? Ya si vamos con otro producto como es nuestro partner Bearing, ya sería una ventana aparte. Entonces desde aquí podemos también, como supervisor, podemos tener acciones, podemos ver, observar la pantalla de estos agentes, si estamos haciendo la grabación de pantalla o monitoreo de pantalla, si podemos si estamos haciendo evaluaciones a esos agentes basadas en sus llamadas, también lo podemos mirar. Entonces, desde aquí también está la parte de reportería. Esta parte de reportería son más de 140 reportes estándar. Y de estos reportes, tenemos reportes de llamada, reportes de agente. Todos estos reportes se pueden exportar por medio de APIs. También se pueden modificar. Por ejemplo, si yo quiero ver solamente un reporte de llamadas, yo lo puedo personalizar. Y este reporte, una vez que lo personalice, yo lo puedo guardar bajo un nombre dentro de mi propia carpeta de reportes. Puedo exportar los detalles o, mejor aún, yo puedo hacer un agendamiento de este reporte donde yo lo puedo enviar a un FTP y puedo decidir cada cuánto, cuál es la frecuencia de ese reporte. Lo puedo ejecutar
reportar diariamente, semanal, dependiendo de los días de la semana, o si lo quiero una vez al mes. Una vez que ya tenga este reporte guardado, pues lo puedo modificar, personalizar de nuevo y volver a salvar como reporte número 2, 3, 5, lo que se necesite, ¿no? Entonces, todo esto es lo que tenemos por el lado de Finite. Nuestro estudio, que es lo que nosotros llamamos nuestro IBA, traer esa información, crear una lógica, tomar unas decisiones basadas en ello, pasarle la información de nuevo al cliente y revolver, ¿no? Es decir, que el cliente tenga una conversación con un bot y que de cierta forma sea satisfactoria para que el cliente no tenga que ir directamente a un agente, y esto minimizaría la cantidad de llamadas abandonadas o perdidas o donde los clientes cuelgan. De la misma manera se funciona todo lo que es la parte de la mensajería o los chatbots, todo lo que es la parte de WhatsApp, todo lo que es la parte de conexiones, mensajería, simplemente diferentes módulos, pero la lógica de cierta manera es la misma. Tenemos un menú donde vamos a pedir vamos a hacer una pregunta, una consulta, esa consulta la vamos a enviar a un web service, traemos la información, basada en esa información tomamos otra decisión y así sucesivamente, ¿no? Entonces se va creando lógica dentro de lo que es la parte de la IDEA. ¿Preguntas hasta ahora? Vale. Entonces por el lado del administrador, todo lo estamos trayendo ya a HTML5. Desde el lado del administrador se puede manejar una sola plataforma. Y aquí tenemos todas las conexiones, dependiendo de los módulos que tengan o que haya adquirido el cliente, pues aquí van a mostrar diferentes opciones. Te puedes conectar directamente al estudio, tener la UC directamente, toda la parte de cómo configurar chat, el voice stream, cómo ir al administrador para crear usuarios, manejar todos los skills, etc. Y también tenemos la parte de nuestros dashboards avanzados. Donde se pueden crear diferentes opciones en tiempo real. Esta información vendría en este caso estamos conectados con la parte del WFM, y esta información vendría cada 15 minutos más o menos, pasada la información, para poder tener todo lo que es la parte de las llamadas, el sumario, los KPIs. Entonces todo esto se puede sumarizar y tener la parte de la gamificación. Entonces por el lado de la gamificación, darle poder a estos agentes para que puedan crear sus propios, digamos entre comillas, juegos o apuestas, y que ellos puedan tener su propia configuración y puedan tener sus propias recibir su propia cantidad de monedas, juegos, etc., ¿no? Preguntas.
¿Qué trae novedoso Finite en términos de poder etiquetar la llamada para saber el tipo de llamada, si se dio solución? Pues, ¿qué trae diferente?
Por ese lado, Finite es muy sencillo. Nosotros simplemente tenemos un level de tipificación de la llamada, ya sea una venta, ya sea no sé, lo que tú quieras configurar esa tipificación, que es la calificación de esa llamada al final, ¿sí? Nosotros no tenemos, por ejemplo, otros productos pueden que tenga categoría, subcategoría. Se puede hacer, pero no es out of the box, es algo que habría que configurar y modificar de cierta manera. A ver, luego los reportes, tú puedes buscar las llamadas por cualquier objeto, es decir, si es por un skill, si es por un número de teléfono, si es por un nombre, una campaña, etc. Entonces tú puedes, el reporte es robusto en el sentido de que puedes hacer la búsqueda utilizando diferentes filtros. También tenemos filtros avanzados, donde tú puedes decir el número del teléfono es A, pero también llamó a las 3 de la tarde, y entonces vas como filtrando y volviendo ese filtro un poco más avanzado para poder llegar a esa llamada que estás buscando parecida, ¿no? Entonces, más o menos. Dime.
La solución ofrece grabación de pantalla y de audio, de
Sí.
interacciones telefónicas.
Sí, a ver, nosotros, digamos entre comillas, estándar, out of the box, nosotros hacemos todo lo que es la parte de la grabación de voz, ¿sí? Con el VO, con el WFO, el QM, nosotros ofrecemos como un producto adicional lo que es la grabación de pantalla y la grabación de voz, ¿sí? De esta grabación de pantalla tú puedes hacer toda la parte del monitoreo, lo que es la parte de calidad, y esa grabación de pantalla pues se almacena por 3, 4, 5 años. O sea, sí lo ofrecemos, lo que pasa es que es un producto adicional.
A nivel de campañas de salida, ¿qué modos de marcación ofrece el marcador?
Vale, buena pregunta. Entonces tenemos el modo de vista previa, progresivo, de power, predictivo. Nosotros tenemos dominios que son TCPA, básicamente que es modo manual donde la gente tiene que escribir el número, ¿sí?, para poder hacer la llamada. Y también tenemos la parte de autodial o robodial o agentless dial, que es básicamente si tú tienes una campaña donde necesitas decirle a tus clientes, oiga, vamos a estar cerrados dentro de 8 días. Entonces tú simplemente ejecutas esa campaña y el sistema marca, le contesta a Edwin, por ejemplo, le deja el mensaje y ya cuelga la llamada. Entonces no necesitas ocupar agentes. Tenemos todos los tipos de marcación, básicamente. ¿Preguntas?
¿En pantalla es automático o el agente lo debe accionar?
No, automático. Ahora, por el lado de, bueno, a ver, automático, si lo quieres configurar para que sea que la gente o por medio de una aplicación se haga la grabación, también se puede hacer. ¿Sí? Pero, o sea, por defecto la mayoría de los clientes siempre quieren que sea automático, no quieren que sus agentes sean los que empiecen o terminen. Pero nosotros ofrecemos esa opción. ¿Sí? Se puede configurar, todo es configurable. ¿Preguntas? No.
Para los procesos de back office, por ejemplo, ¿podría tener grabación de pantalla?
Sí, lo puedes hacer. Por ejemplo, digamos, si llega un chat o llega un correo, también puedes tener la grabación de pantalla.
Sobre la grabación de pantalla hay algo que estamos viendo y quisiera confirmar. Nosotros tenemos una integración, por ejemplo, con Salesforce para todo el tema de back office, por ejemplo. Me va a grabar la pantalla, aún con esa integración, de lo que está haciendo el asesor en Salesforce, o cómo funciona esa grabación de pantalla cuando yo integro.
Estás dentro de un chat, dentro de una llamada.
Sí, exacto.
Sí, porque eso es un engine que se ejecuta dentro del PC y cuando se activa, te graba toda la pantalla. ¿Preguntas?
Temas de etiquetado de llamadas. Por ejemplo, quiero que me aparezca el motivo de contacto, me aparezca la cédula, me aparezca el resultado, o sea, varios campos con los que pueda etiquetar.
Buena pregunta. Entonces, para eso nosotros utilizamos dentro de la parte de... cuando te mostré la parte de la IDA, dentro de la IDA, cuando tú traes toda esa información, digamos, de una base de datos o de un CRM, tú puedes pasar eso como variables de llamada para la gente, donde le puedes pasar toda esa información a la gente. Dentro de las campañas, déjame hacer una llamada aquí rápida. Por ejemplo, esto que tú ves aquí son variables, ¿sí? Entonces yo aquí, por ejemplo, por el lado de Find9 yo puedo traer ese contacto automático, o si le doy clic en me trae. Pero para contestar tu pregunta se puede hacer, simplemente traer las variables que tú quieres mostrarle a esa gente, ya sea por medio de un script o por medio de variables, traer la información desde el lado de tu CRM o de la base de datos y se la pasas a esa gente para que él esté informado de qué o con quién está hablando, ¿no? Puede ser un nombre, puede ser un teléfono, puede ser un billing, un invoice, lo que necesites. Nosotros también tenemos conectores, que los conectores tú puedes traer de pronto el CRM completo, ¿sí? Una pantalla completa dentro de un browser. También se puede hacer.
Okay. Y cuando yo haga la descarga de, por ejemplo, de esa llamada, ¿me puede salir con esa información?
Dentro de los reportes, esas variables de llamada se pueden crear, bueno, es un checkbox, se pueden volver que sean reportables. Entonces lo que hace es que almacena esa información dentro de los reportes y cuando tú vayas a buscar esa llamada te va a traer toda esa información.
Claro, en la implantación de esta herramienta, con el equipo de analítica y de reportería, se está trabajando en que se automatice tal cual como está hoy día en otras herramientas, que se automatice la descarga de las llamadas con su respectivo etiquetado, a través de APIs, disponibilizando las variables que menciona.
Sí. Nosotros también tenemos del SIP, para traer y llevar información. Entonces todo eso se puede hacer. Y implementar. Preguntas.
¿Hasta dónde lo contabiliza? Si yo estoy atendiendo a un cliente y termino y hago un proceso por llamada, ¿eso queda dentro de todo el evento de la llamada?
Correcto. Para Five9, él cuenta desde que la llamada se contesta en el IVR hasta que la llamada se tipifica. Para Five9 la tipificación es el fin de la llamada, no cuando el cliente cuelga, sino cuando la gente califica la llamada o la interacción.
Y si yo tengo un vuelo landing en donde tenga que estar haciendo uso de WhatsApp, pero también tenga que generar una llamada de un mismo evento, también hay la posibilidad de poder integrar en un solo punto.
Lo que tú, sí, eso ya sería por medio de los APIs y crear una configuración. Preguntas.
En ese reporte, ¿qué datos entrega? La pregunta de la estructura más es, ¿podemos obtener todo lo que se cargue al marcador, el número de cédula del cliente, los teléfonos, cómo quedó tipificada y la duración de cada cliente?
Toda la información de la sede, toda la información del contacto, todo lo puedes sacar directamente desde los APIs. O sea, nosotros no damos acceso directamente a la base de datos, pero por medio del API puedes sacar toda la información de la base de datos. Toda. Plana.
Para complementar ahí, la idea es que también en la implementación nosotros podamos conectar esto a Cosmos con CAP, de tal manera de que también los reportes que estamos generando en otras plataformas cloud sean también transparentes para Five9.
Lo puedan empezar a escanear, coloquen los nombres, puede ser muy chiquitico, pero con el número les debe redireccionar. Les pediría por favor que puedan colocar nombre y apellido para, si hay dos Laura, dos Camilos, que sepamos quién es quién. Dos Glorias, puede haber Glorias. Porque la idea de esto es, hay un incentivo para ustedes. ¿Quién es John F? Ok, listo. No se asusten que las preguntas no están difíciles. Realmente no quería hacer una rifa de diga un número, entonces vamos a hacerlo muy dinámico. Llevamos 13 personas, ¿cuántos somos? 40. Bueno, nos falta gente. 15, 17, 18. No vamos ni en la mitad. Hay premios.
Pero ¿sabes qué me di cuenta? Que no va a ganar nada porque esta red está tan lenta. Entonces de aquí a que yo responda,
Se acabó el tiempo.
Ay, qué pena. No están difíciles, así que vamos a arrancar. Pues. Pendientes todos que vamos a arrancar. Bueno, arrancó esto. ¿Verdadero o falso? Five9 hace referencia a la disponibilidad que ofrece la solución, que es de 99.999. ¿Verdadero o falso? Recuerden que es el que más rápido pulse. Y nos fuimos. Ah, todos. Uy, ¿cómo así que tenemos 11 personas? Bueno, ahí por recordarles, ese es el nombre de nuestro Five9 y pues es la promesa de disponibilidad que ofrecemos en los servicios para esas 11 personas, ¿vale? Ya empezamos mal. Creo que voy a darles el incentivo, o sea, aquí los 3 primeros vamos a entregarles un Alexa, entonces muy atentos, no respondan por responder porque hay premios. O sea, a mí nuestro resultado me preocupa. Bueno, siguiente. Tenemos a Siguiente. ¿Cuál es uno de los beneficios de la omnicanalidad? Mayor eficiencia en el manejo de llamadas, mayor variedad de canales de comunicación con los clientes, mayor velocidad de respuesta a los clientes, mayor tiempo de espera de los clientes. Rápido, rápido, rápido. 20, 22, 24. Tenemos efectivamente 17 personas. Vamos bien. Variedad de canales de comunicación. Recuerda que soluciones como Five9, la intención no solo es atender un canal de voz, atender canales chat, atender canales de redes sociales. Entonces es ahí donde entra un valor el tema de omnicanalidad. ¿Qué tecnológica tiene en tu casa? Enciclopedia parlante. ¿Quién va a mandar en tu casa tecnológicamente? A ver, pregunta corchadora. Necesito responder rápido, lo que se les ocurra. Tiempo. Bueno, todas eran correctas, no se preocupen. Bueno, ¿cómo vamos con la corchadora? Yo voy de arriba. Traducción. Pero pues son los tres pilares fundamentales en los que Five9 entra a apoyar a las empresas, ¿sí? Temas de tecnología, porque si pensamos en soluciones como lo son los agentes virtuales inteligentes, pues esto es una mejora de rentabilidad, no tener que usar personas humanas para ciertas actividades. Experiencia al cliente, no tener a los clientes por esa pegada a una misma plataforma. Bueno, a ver cómo va la tabla. Y bajaron o Windows. Lo pensó mucho Windows. Bueno, siguiente, pendiente. ¿Cuáles de estos canales no es comúnmente utilizado en un contact center? Teléfono, chat en vivo, redes sociales, correo postal. Rápido, lo han pensado mucho. Efectivamente, correo postal. José sigue arriba. Un gusto para nosotros trabajar con ustedes. Es un proceso que estamos arrancando, como ya lo dijimos en algún momento. La idea es que conectan algún punto de todas las implementaciones, de toda la preventa, pero es un proceso que está arrancando y es un proceso que en este punto van a tener todo el acompañamiento de Five9, van a tener todo el acompañamiento de nosotros como implementador y mayorista en el país. Y la idea es que en el momento que requieran cualquier apoyo pueden contar directamente con todo el equipo de preventa. Obviamente que la intención es que puedan tener demos personalizados para llegar directamente a los clientes, mostrar toda la solución y de verdad que quiera explorar un poco más, estamos totalmente abiertos a poder tener una sesión adicional en la que nos sentemos, les mostremos. También Five9 entrega la posibilidad de que ustedes puedan certificarse directamente si quieren tener la certificación oficial de ellos, siendo parte comercial, parte técnica. Estos sí deben solicitar el acceso a José, pero quien quiera hacer esas certificaciones adicionales que los va a apoyar en todo el proceso, podemos tenerlo. Entonces, estaremos muy atentos desde Five9, desde el momento para poderlos acompañar en todos los procesos y vamos adelante, ¿vale?
Miren al Señor.
Diga Five9.
Esa es la prueba de luz. Listo. Entonces voy con la primera. Digo seria, pero es sonriendo. Bueno, vale. Una, dos y... Listo, esa es la primera. Voy con la segunda. Una, dos y... ¿Por qué hago 4 fotos? Porque hubo alguien que cerró los ojos. Tercera. Baja un poquito más tú. Ahí está ahí. Bueno, 1, 2, 3. La primera loca y segundo loca. Listo. Cuando cuente 3. A la 1, a las 2 y a las 3. Cambiamos. Listo. 1, 2 y 3. Listo.